there, looking for me too. Got my best fit on, we're gonna have some fun tonight. Are you ready for a fight? Bring on the wrecking machine, setting your dreams of heaven on fire. Bring on the wrecking machine. Bring on the wrecking machine. Gonna ignite your every desire. Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city you burn, I'm gonna build one higher. Target locked, guns are hot. Full speed ahead. Bang, bang, you're dead. You may think you have a shot to take me down. Victory's mine instead. Got my best fit on, we're gonna have some fun tonight. Are you ready for a fight?
Walk to the dance floor! We got a party going on! Overheat your feet! We're gonna rock their shit!
Bring on the wrecking machine, setting your dreams of heaven on fire. Bring on the wrecking machine. Bring on the wrecking machine. Gonna ignite your every desire. Bring on the wrecking machine. For every city you burn, let it burn, let it burn, let it
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Between Two Keepstars. I'm your host, Karama X, and welcome to the show. So before we start off, I just want to make a quick announcement. Dex has decided that he no longer wishes to be a host on Between Two Keepstars. So we're currently on the lookout for some hosts. So if you're interested, join that New Eden Post Discord and message Karama X. So yeah, let's get this show rolling. You're watching the the best show to air on Sundays at 2300 or 2100, depending on the week, really. You're watching Between Two Keepstars. So I'm here with actually quite a few guests this week. We've got Ish and Dak from Fancy Pants. You may know them as they just competed in the Alliance tournament. We have Gregorin, who is a regular. We also have Keepstarbot, who is really the hero of the show. I just wanted to quickly shout out Keepstarbot, who is responsible for all of our audio. You know, he's a silent man, but he gets real work done. And as well as Rain, our very own AT commentator extraordinaire. So welcome, guys.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thank you.
So, a lot has happened. I guess we'll start off with the obvious. The AT was today. How'd you guys feel how it went today?
That was exciting.
I quite enjoyed the little boundary violation from Fraternity.
Oh, yeah. That I got to my computer in time to just turn on the stream and immediately see Brett shouting about that, and that was amazing.
I gambled on the opposing team, and I made so many points from that match.
Nice.
There were so many upsets today. It was great to see.
Yeah, I've never been happier to lose a bet than on Calcif today.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was amazing.
Tusker's losing was the biggest shock for me.
Yeah, I had already lost. That was my biggest loss until Calcif. I lost a lot of points today.
Yeah, NC Dot going down too. We saw a lot of historically bigger names like falling, which is kind of hilarious, but also really exciting.
I think it really goes to show that one of the biggest successes of this AT, besides happening at all, right, is that we've had so many new teams come in and we've had so many teams shift around, and with the Merc rule and everything, it's really given a lot of new blood, I think, to the AT, and we're going to see a lot more upsets in the future, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's also the viewer numbers are huge for the AT, which is great to see. It definitely shows that the EVE community is really excited about the AT, and I think we're already all planning for the next year's AT already. This one isn't even over yet.
Yeah, and kudos to Aurora for making a commitment there that she's made several times, that she's working absolutely as hard as she can to make sure that it's not a, is there going to be an AT next year? But yeah, there's an AT next year. And I really look forward to that kind of commitment and hope CCP keeps that up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ray.
I was going to say, Aurora did make the comment that their CCP's ultimate goal is that people don't have to ask if there is an AT next year, but that there's consistently an AT. And so far, from what we've seen with how they're running this AT, that it's definitely, like, there's definitely going to be one next year.
For sure. I think Aurora, I was watching some of the stream, and Aurora was talking about before she worked at CCP, she was with Brave, which I had no idea she flew with Brave before, but she said when when she left Brave, they said, it's like, yeah, it's sad you're going, just make sure you get us back the AT. And she's like, okay, job number one.
And I must say, one of the things that actually I found interesting was the Merc rule, which actually I wanted to get into. Fancy Pants, and it was more about Fancy Pants, but you guys are actually in Horde, but you guys ran as Fancy Pants Alliance. Could you guys go a little bit more into that?
Yeah, I can take this one, Ish. So Fancy Pants is a corp and Horde, and we love Daddy Gob, but we wanted to really step out into our own and put together a Fancy Pants team, and of course it's the Alliance tournament and not the Corp tournament. So we actually spun up a new alliance for Fancy Pants Alliance, had all our pilots jump into it, and really it was more out of the idea that Horde is a pretty established team. They have a lot of talent, a lot of respect for the FCs in Horde. We have a great time flying with them, and truth be told, we honestly just didn't even know if we would make the cut with the Horde team, just because in an alliance as big as Horde, it is fierce competition for only 10 slots. So we decided we wanted to put together our own team. We checked with CCP. I had some conversations with CCP Swift, wanted to make sure we didn't run afoul of any collusion rules. So we basically had zero contact with the Horde team. We pretended like they didn't even exist. We never even scrimmed them, just because we wanted to be completely transparent. And we just kind of went into this as our first AT, put a team together with Corp members, as well as a couple friends. We do have one or two mercenaries on the team that were great assets, but the core of the team was Fancy Pants, and our goal was just to kind of have a good time as a Corp. And I think Ish can back me up here. We're super proud of how our guys performed and all the work they've put in over the last 3 months.
Absolutely. For this being every single member's very first AT, I cannot believe the growth we've gone through over these past several months. Some of these people have been working 6 months plus on it. I joined, I think it was about 4.5 months ago or so. And we have just done some fantastic improvement, I think, and I'm very proud of everything the team has done, including the very difficult match today. But it's just been a huge build up, and we're very proud of the whole team. And we've made some great new friends along the way. Having, like Dak mentioned, we actually have 2 mercs in the corp. We also have 2 friends who are not registered as mercs actually in the alliance, but they actually don't come to the Fancy Pants corp. But I also got to add, I mean, this has also been a dream for Dak and I for years. We go way back. We have been through some rough battles in Eve. We all know that this is the game of drama and discord as much as it is the game of spaceships and lasers, and we have gone through so much together. And this was just like a realization of a dream for us. It was a real adrenaline rush just to sit in those AT ships in the AT field after all we've gone through together.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys
ahead.
did a really good job. Like you said, it was everyone's first AT. That was really impressive for first AT.
Yeah, and I also want to say special thanks to Sin Ponzers, who is a former captain of Exodus. In the early start, he gave us some really good advice. He kind of gave us a kickoff, and he unfortunately was not able to be to participate this year in the AT because of real life things. But he definitely gave us some good insights to start with, and gave us some great encouragement, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and it really has been a kind of learn as we go type thing. While we have some years behind us, I wouldn't say anyone really in Fancy Pants is one of a shark by any means in the Eve status. So it was a lot of just kind of teaching each other, teaching ourselves, kind of pulling each other up, and kind of just sharing the knowledge as best we could, and learning some hard lessons along the way. But that was part of the fun.
For sure.
Yeah, no, and you guys actually won some of your first matches. Maybe go into, I guess, what were you thinking going into those matches? What sort of strategies you were thinking about now that that it's over?
Yeah, you want to take this one, Ish?
Yeah, sure. So we did win our first match against what could possibly go wrong. And it was a mystery for us going into that, right? Because a lot of the teams are very vocal. I mean, everybody knows who Radicos is, right? Nobody had a question about that. Nobody had a question about Dirk or Oris or many of these great pilots that we have on these teams. So we try to gather intel on teams, right? You try to get the dirt and all of that. You never want to run afoul of the rules or do anything shady, but you try to figure out everything you can. And just what could possibly go wrong was a big mystery for us. We knew very little about their corp on TQ, their alliance on TQ and everything. But so we went into it with the utmost of respect, and we always are ready for a very difficult fight. We never want to get overconfident, like, well, because we haven't heard from them, they must suck or something. That's just a silly thing to assume. It was unfortunate that there's a little misunderstanding on the warp in on their part. I do feel for them for that. I think that they could have gotten some more done at a more optimal warp in for them. I am very proud of how our team handled it. Just some amazing webs out of those Lokis. Great job on Dak for keeping these vital targets, and knowing that I can send a pilot like Leroy off to go just grab that Kitsune, and that can just happen is amazing. And just proud of that the team's improvement there. And it was a very huge adrenaline rush to get that win, get that flagship kill, and that just really was, like I said, just a realization of a dream for us. We expect more wins ahead for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate for what could possibly go wrong. I believe what happened is they had a preset default warp in at 40, and then they selected to warp in at 50, and then of course 40 plus 50 is 90, which was an illegal warp in. So instead of coming in at 50, which was their optimal range, they came in at 0, which was just kind of a huge advantage for us. It kind of sucks, but that's kind of the way the AT breaks, and we were really able to close the gap. And we were running a rush slept near Loki comp, and that was just we could not ask for better conditions in that matchup. So it was a good fight, but it was kind of unfortunate what happened to what could go wrong.
Yep, but RN Jesus makes his rounds, because this optimal was a setup we had for this match. The next match we faced a quite unexpected, I have to say, direct counter. That was a really interesting comp that Boundary Experts fielded, and kudos to them for an inventive comp and for their success in piloting it. It was very difficult to fly through. I'm very proud of our team for how we handled it, with Boundary Experts having so many expert pilots, having ex-PL and current PL members in there and things like that. And so many people have a ton more AT experience than we have for sure. I'm proud of how we handled and how we held up, and we're looking forward to our next matches and optimistic we can take this all the way through.
And
Yep.
I actually have a question from chat, and then I want to loop in Rain here. The question being, which ships did you guys fly, and what was your experience? I think you already answered part of that.
Yeah, sure. Dak, you want to take this one first, and then I'll kind of follow with mine?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much just because it's not over yet. We still got the backup bracket next week, so we still have some comps in the background that we might break out. But the two fleets we ran today, or this weekend, I should say, was Sleipnir Loki Rush yesterday, where we beat what could possibly go wrong. And then today, unfortunately, we lost to Boundary Experts. We were running what we lovingly call our Ishpocalypse fleet that Ish thought up. And it's really a ball of death style fleet based around Apocalypse Navy issues with some Vexer support and an Ashimu webbing stuff down to just lay in tons and tons of damage. We chose that comp today because we were actually expecting our opponents to bring a Shield Barghest comp or something similar along those lines, and they kind of pulled a sneaky on us, and instead of bringing Shield Barghest, they actually brought Armor Barghest, which ended up just being a complete hard counter for our comp. And if anyone watches the replay, it was not pretty. We did not get a single kill, but I was proud, facing the completely nightmare matchup. We still almost brought him to time, which is some small victory.
For sure, we put some heavy hits in this Barghest, including the flagship. Those arbitrators, man, woof. Not something we expected to see based on how the bands were set up and the strategy, like Dak said. It was a challenge. So for myself, I serve as our on-field FC for these matches. And we kind of work very heavily in the background, collaborating between Dak and I, and the third part of our faithful trinity, Mr. Jeffrey Abider, who we're infinitely grateful for. But so for the first match, we did, like Dak mentioned, that Sleipnir Loki Rush, and I was in a Sleipnir. The feeling in a Slep is great. The Slep is just one of these ships that just feels so good to fly. You feel like, hey, I'm about to go kill stuff, because that's always what happens. Win or lose, you just know stuff is about to die, especially the autocannon Sleps like we fielded. They can get so much done, and like Dak mentioned before, with them being brought in at 0, unfortunately, it really did just set us up nicely. We were able to get things webbed down. We were able to get things driven off. Kitsune throwing out a little bit of jams here and there, but knowing, just knowing that I could rely on Reroy to just go off and get that pinned out was really huge. It's really difficult flying the ship and trying to make some calls, right? Because it's very easy to neglect yourself. It's easy to miss those ANSI charges on your shield booster. It's easy to miss should I be switching ammos or switching position for myself and things like that. So I've really had a lot of challenge doing that, and I've really tried to work hard to make sure that I understand it well, and we're trying our best there for sure.
Yeah, I gotta say that's probably the biggest lesson everyone on the team really learned, is going from the the quote unquote F1 monkey of null block alliance warfare to small man 10-man AT tournament. Your micromanagement needs to take about 8, 9, 10, 11 steps up in order to compete at a reasonable level. So it's been a good skill to really hone.
For sure. And I think one thing that has hugely helped us there is Fancy Pants is founded on the idea that we love the alliance we're in. We think we've gotten so much done in Horde, and we think Horde has done so much for us. We also try to field things like small gang fleets, medium gang fleets, and try to do a variety of activities. I think that definitely helped. I think it was Mystical who had said on the CCP stream that, good thing about being in Horde is you can get a fight every day. That's definitely true. At the same time, that arena, the sweat there is just there's nothing quite like it. It is very different. So and then that second comp that we flew today, so I was in the Apocalypse Navy issue. We have 3 of those. ANIs are really interesting beasts. They put out respectable, but not like the biggest smashing damage. It's not actually the highest damage battleship in the game or anything, but the tracking is just absurd. And so the tactics that we apply and the kind of fits that we use and the way we kind of steer that in really favors into that tracking, which means we have options. You don't often see a battleship where you can just make comfortable targets calls like, okay, well, we just hit a single drive-by scram on that frigate, so we can just take that out of the sky. So that feels nice. It's just unfortunate with that comp that they brought. It was very expertly crafted. It was just really unfortunate that they were able to get that onto the field because his arbitrators were rough. So we tried to lay into those and you try to drive through, and it's you can feel the heat of those missiles bearing down on you. So we had to kind of take the targets that we could. When you're being disrupted like that, you can't get pig-headed about it. You can't just be super stubborn and say, well, I wanted to shoot that thing that I started shooting, when it's already scooted out of that range from thanks to the tracking disruption. You got to take what you can. So we try to do the spreads, get the best damage in we could. Unfortunately, like Dak said, we couldn't get the target down, but we certainly put on a good show. People lived, I think everybody in that comp lived longer than they deserved to, longer than they should have, thanks to their dedication and skill.
Yeah, my tune that I was flying in the AT was Casey Jarrell. He was flying the Vexor, and they primaried the Vexor right out of the get-go. I think they were just like, T1 cruiser, sitting still, it'll be easy to pop. And our team grabbed me at almost the last second, and I was able to pull range and get out of their missile range, and it made the world a difference being able to stick in the fight for that much longer. You have to make some split second decisions, and they don't always work out for you, but man, I gotta say there's not much better feeling when it does work out.
For sure. And I got to add the comment that one cool thing that you see in the AT, because of the ship limitations and because of the module limitations, right, where you can't have these like stupid blingy, believe me, those A&I fits I would have loved to put in there, but just couldn't because of the fitting rules and everything. You really start to see these ships that you don't think of much and you just kind of glance over being these really amazing, capable ships. I think it was Sutonia who said that Vexors are extremely strong and just underrated for the AT overall. And I think he's totally right. I mean, we've seen good success out of our Vexor application and how we brought them in. And, so losing that Vexor, first off, you think, it's a Vexor, right? That's a thing I kill when it's ratting AFK on some, drone site or something. But the reality is they can be just so vital because of the way that they're implemented in these strategies, and everybody counts. You only get a maximum of 10 people on that field, and there is no sino, there is no extra support. So you really start to think about and rely upon people more and more. And I think that really changes the game and really ups your respect for each other.
Yeah, I gotta say, I will never look at Logi drones the same way again after this after this tournament, because you're only allowed, one cruiser Logi or two frigate Logi on your AT team. It puts a lot more emphasis on Logi drones, and I never really realized just how much they rep and how quickly they rep since once we started scrimming. You just don't see them all that often in larger fleets on the normal server, so it really opened my eyes to what some of these things can do.
Yeah, another one of those ships that I saw a lot of the AT that you don't really see on TQ is the Vengeance, which I really like that ship, but on TQ there are usually better options.
Yeah, I think the Vengeance does get outclassed sometimes on TQ. I agree with you. Just AFs are in, I don't know, maybe I'm not spending enough quality time with those 5 billion pod low sec bros and their AFs, but I feel like AFs are in like this almost awkward spot right now, unfortunately. But Vengeance definitely a strong ship for here for the point value that you put on field with them. They can get a lot done, and they have unique capabilities versus, say, a Retribution. They're their cousin. A lot of that comes down to the fitting room that you achieve with them, and if you can optimally manage your ADC, you're not just one of the ships that goes in for the tackle and it's like an instant hero tackle, right? You might get 3-4 drive-bys off before they can even like seriously put the damage into you.
Now, real quick, I just want to say a hello to Sarah Barnes. But Rain, I'm kind of interested to hear from a commentator perspective what you thought about some of these comps in these matches.
Yeah, so for full disclosure, I'm not commentating this AT. I've commentated past ATs, but I'm helping in the background with even T support. But I mean, a lot of these comps, the biggest part with being a commentator is you really don't have a lot of time to understand what's on grid. So at best, you can see the control bar, or not the control bars, but the stat bars, which one is control, the other is attack, the other is tank. And then you can also look at the ships and see their weapon type for the most part. So like Vexers are an easy one. Like Vexers can fit any type of gun, or they can, have utility high slots. So being able to look at a ship and try to guess, or at least have a rough estimate of what it is and what it's doing, and then you have to try and like dictate what's going on screen. And a lot of it with commentators, they call out what folks at home can't see. So the big role of commentating is being able to look at things, call out fits if you just so happen to know them, but then also the fact that you're calling out mistakes teams are making, or sometimes really good plays, whether it's by tackle or by logi. So just items at home that people can't, or just items that people at home can't see, that you have the privilege of seeing on screen and on grid.
Which is especially important for a game like EVE Online. I gotta thank the commentators a lot, because my girlfriend ended up showing the match to her family, and they don't know what EVE Online is, but they got to watch the match, and without the commentators at least providing some info, they were just completely lost. So commentators are super important in a game like EVE, where it's not really easy being able to tell what's going on at any one time.
I have a lot of respect for the commentators. I know that people in all these discords and all these armchair quarterbacks, when I give them grief for the things that they miss or the ships they miss or whatever, but when we get on that field, we have 10 ships to look at, figure out their weapon systems, figure out how much control they might be able to exert, where they might position, what they might do. The commentators have 20, and they have to go at it. They have to slog at it for like every single match. I know they rotate out a little bit, but they have to do multiple matches the same day. So lots of respect for that, and it's so much more fun to watch the AT because of the commentary.
I think it's hi, by the way. I think it's particularly interesting when you're spectating, to not quite understand perhaps some of the things that might come up that don't often come up. There was three. One that brings me back in my head for yesterday was three Vargas that I saw and went, oh, that'll definitely be artillery. And then one of the commentators went, and they're autocannon, and I went, oh no. And it's those sorts of things that you can't quite see from the spectator view on the stream that is perhaps particularly useful from our perspective, listening to the commentators and them getting those quick calls in and trying to assess things like that, things that are perhaps counterintuitive.
Commentating is a hard job. I've done commentating for other gaming source, not EVE, but it's a lot to keep track of, and you're putting yourself out there. It's difficult. I know some in our match, one of the commentators was mentioning our performance in the feeders, which we found quite funny, because we actually didn't play in the feeders, but they were making predictions on us based on that. But there's just a lot going on, and it's easy to get things confused, and then you're doing it in front of thousands of people, so that can just rail on you. It takes a lot of bravery to be a commentator.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's particularly great when you hear them hark back to things of yesteryear. I know that Jintan in our last match today harked back to when a lesser Logi pilot lost to Raibisu for our team a couple of years ago.
Yeah, as soon as he said that, I just started laughing uncontrollably.
Yeah, no, I was rolling about. It was very amusing. But it's nice to have kind of that kind of tournament history and that competitive play heritage brought through and brought forward by some of the commentators. It's great.
Absolutely, all in good fun. And congrats, by the way, Sarah, to you and your whole team. Like I said to you when I DM'd you after that match, what an upset and what fantastic piloting you guys put out. We always knew you were that formidable team. I knew that was going to be an exciting match, but I just did not expect the fury that you guys went at it with. That was amazing.
As I said to you, I think, and I'm quite happy to say it publicly, we picked the right comp into the right band set. That was basically it.
I've never been happier to lose a bet.
We read the right comp into the right band set, and we didn't completely cock it up. Is that allowed? Can I say cock it up? Or is that not a thing? I don't know. Anyway, it's the internet. It'll be fine. We didn't completely whiff it, so that's we were quite pleased with that.
And now you know Gregorian bet against you, so you can set your standings on TQ accordingly.
Yeah, completely.
They already have PL said negative.
I think we're one of the few permanent negative 10s for PL, and I think vice versa, actually.
I think that's accurate, yeah.
Yeah.
It's Eve. Negative 10 is love.
Something like that. Brutal affection. Is that a phrase?
Well, one thing too that I want to outline, especially for being a commentator, is you have to keep things interesting. For the folks watching at home, you need to constantly be saying something, making so there really isn't much dead air. You need to be constantly just be entertaining in order to keep people. And so that is another thing that, props to the commentators and all past commentators.
Yeah, it takes a lot, and it's been fun going back and rewatching our matches and seeing the commentators and just seeing their perspective on it. That's been super valuable just to learn from. Just having another set of eyes, especially, some of these commentators who are so famed in the community, they tend to be people whose opinions you respect. So if, Jin Tan says, hey, you probably weren't thinking that great about doing certain, this, I'm going to take that to heart.
Yeah, no, totally. It's. I don't know if you guys are the same, but I kind of have a hard and fast got to turn off the stream when we're playing. Like I just can't, I can't handle it. Like I cannot deal with the voices in my head plus those voices.
Right.
I think we give a call. I think we give a call in Fleet every time. Like, okay, mute, but stay on the Twitch long enough to bet on our team, and then
Well, do you know what's really upsetting? The fact that I always put all of my points on us, apart from the time when I'm panicking about flying against Kalsev and forget.
Oh, so the time with the biggest tip.
Yeah, so I had 20,000 points that I didn't put on my own team, which would have paid me out like what, 200k or something.
You would have had so much.
I'd have got a voucher. It'd have been great.
Yeah.
Then I could have afforded the shipping.
Right. Yeah, I was freaking out a bit because Twitch wasn't letting me bet on us, and we were like getting warped in. And I'm like, Twitch, come on.
No, it was a good day today. There was some really, really cool comps flown. Some stuff that I'd anticipated to see but hadn't seen yet showed up, which was nice. And some stuff that I just completely didn't expect as well.
Oh, for sure. I've seen a few comps like I mentioned before, the one we faced today that was unexpected. I've seen a few comps that came out that were pretty surprising and well done. And that was one of the challenges facing Boundary Experts too, is going off their previous round, their previous win in this AT. They brought some Leshaks, and it was a really nicely positioned and well fit and thought out Leshak comp as well. That's also just a little bit off the beaten path, right? Kind of shows that they're the only Leshak comp that have won so far this year.
Yeah.
So it was like really difficult. Okay, how do we plan for this team that's clearly capable of wielding out some interesting wild cards? And so I definitely have respect to them. And I'll say about the AT overall, and I'm curious to hear, Sarah, if this is your experience as well, but I don't think I was prepared for how helpful so many of these teams can be. And what I mean by that is, sure, you scrim them. That's help right there, right? Seeing how they're going to fly, seeing how you fly, kind of measuring up and seeing, okay, these guys have flown a bunch of times, and getting some experience there. But also there's some great stuff. Many of the people would, DM me after it and be like, hey, I don't think that I think that Vexer could have done better like this, or I don't think I don't think you want that fit. I don't think that's the fit for you, or hey, I think you guys came at us too hard and you could have hung back a little bit, something like that. And you're like, are you trying to help us win? Question mark.
Then you have the mind games that go on. It's like, or should
right. Is this a troll? But no, I sincerely think that just so many people were just being very serious and like helping, and I thought that was very cool. And there were times we were able to, kind of give some thoughts and things about others, and also just teams that got eliminated, like teams eliminated in feeders, things like that offered to scrim us, even though they couldn't be in the AT. So shout out to Matt and No Vacancies for scrimming us several times after they were limited from feeders, and that was really helpful as well. It's cool to be a part of that community and to see that happening, and it really gives me hope for the further new blood, the other new teams that we're yet to see in this next year's AT.
Yeah, completely. I think it's as with all communities of all sorts, that there's a number of absolute good eggs and there's a number of not so great eggs. But on the whole, the majority that I've interacted with of the tournament community have always been very, very helpful, very, very positive. Although not until the end of the tournament, normally, in my experience, when they go, well, that wasn't good and that was good, and maybe you should think about that for next year. I know that we've certainly had a number of debriefs after AT's passed. With helpful hints and tips, some hard-fought lessons over the years and all that jazz, and some stuff that we end up relearning every year, as it were, whilst we presumably get rolled during our scrims leading up to the tournament.
Yeah. Speaking of sharing experience, I really like this year the rule of not allowing AT ships in the comps, because I do feel it did kind of even the playing field quite a bit, especially for the young bloods in the tournament. Having fought 2 matches where we went up against the enemy team's flagship while we ourselves were not fielding our flagship, that was a pretty strenuous thing to overcome in itself, and I can only imagine what it would be like if the other team also had an AT ship.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's something that we've grappled with in years past, because you go up against you would have gone up against teams that you knew had uniques, and then you got to gamble with banning them. And people don't quite perhaps who don't play in this sort of thing understand the strength of something like a pair of malices. A pair of malices is completely ludicrous. They are obscenely strong, and they are just horrendous to go up against. But as a team that definitely doesn't own any of those, it was always something that you sit in your head going, yeah, but that could really ruin my comp. And you kind of go, well, do I ban that? But then also, why the hell are they going to take a unique against you when you don't have one? And I think the only thing that's kind of lost out a little bit due to no uniques being around is the variety in shield comps. Because shield logistics is significantly worse than armor logistics.
I thought you were going to say the spicy kill mails. That's the real loss. Not having them.
Clearly a massive loss, but don't worry, if I've got some, we do have some uniques. Even if we lose everything from now on, we'll generate some spicy kill mails. Don't you worry. But
one Irabisu kill mail is what we're trying to say here. But...
yeah, another one. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's something that I think was an interesting set in the Alliance Open, where they said, "Oh well, you can have the Atana, but you can't have the Raibisu." But again, that was on Thunderdome, so that was even playing field.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Deck here. Obviously, I'm going to have a very selfish perspective, right? We're not sitting around AT ships. I hope to see us walk out of this with a couple of those sweet lapses and all of that, and have
ask us in a couple weeks if we're walking out of here with AT ships, what our opinions are if AT ships would be allowed.
What did I say about no AT ships? That was crazy talk. No, but seriously, I think if I think, well, what if I had to do it all over again? What if what if we didn't have AT ships to field or things like that? And I'm kind of glad. I do agree with you though. Shield Logi, it's a tough job. I don't envy our Logi pilots. Straya and Helena do an amazing job in those Logi ships, but you only get so many options in Shield Logi. And it's not, I would say it's not even just the number of ships you can field realistically in Shield Logi. Because let's get real. There's basically 4. 5 if you're an incredibly optimistic kind of person, but there's also just the factor of how you can fit those and what you can do with it, because a shield comp in a 125 kilometer arena has to be a certain thing. You have to fly a certain way. You can change certain things up, you can do certain tactics, but there's a lot of pressure on you in that shield Logi. Yeah, you have the niceness of it hits at the beginning of the cycle. That only carries you so far when you know what's about to lay into you, and when you know that there's so many high EM damage, high thermal damage things coming at you. It really does limit. So I'll agree with you there. Maybe some cool, interesting little balance changes will come in time for next AT.
Maybe. I'm always hopeful.
Emphasis on the little, please. Numbers changes, not all of a sudden Logi ships fly upside down kind of changes.
I think it would be cool if they alternate. Every other year you can use AT ships, because then that gives a window for newer teams to get their hands on them, but then also allows people to show them off.
Yeah, I quite like I'm very pleased with the points with the prize ship distribution this year. Even if maybe I think they've given out more this year than previous years, but I think even though they're giving out more, I think the distribution starting earlier is good for the overall health of the tournament. It encourages more teams to not feel like they're just shooting in the wind. They've got a chance of coming away with something. I blew our core wallet on our entry fee, like I did. That was it. Everything, the entire corp, everything, the house, the farm, the whole lot, and with no intention of ever refilling it. But it wasn't because we were chasing uniques. But now that we've actually gone, hang on a minute, we didn't actually have to win that many games, and we've made that money back, and we presumably made that money back, and we're in with a shout of even perhaps covering our costs, which will be insane. But I think that's a good incentivizer for more people to stay engaged with tournament play. Like, yes, there's been high engagement this year because there hasn't been one for a couple of years, but I think I want to see it every year, and I want to see every year more and more teams participating, and that feeder tournament particularly, which was vicious, staying vicious, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I gotta say we definitely had some lows over the 3 months. It's gonna happen. When you're spending months and months and months training, you're gonna have some bad days. And having the allure of those fancy AET ships as an option, it really got us through some of those low points. And I think it's a great prize, and I'm really glad that CCP is bringing it back. But how do you guys feel about there not being any more new AT ships? They're just going to be doing reruns of previous AT ships.
I think it's okay because there's enough dead, or on accounts that are otherwise inaccessible, or people who have left the game and wandered off with them. I think it's okay, but equally I don't have one of them, so I'm not going to sit here and go, oh yeah, well it's depreciating the value of my investment. The likes of Blue Melon doesn't care at this point. He doesn't play anymore. He's got most of them, so.
Yeah, I think this is good because it means we're more likely to actually see them in space on Tranquility.
Yeah, that's a good point, Gregorian, is that maybe we'll see a few more on dock. I mean, selfishly, I'm a little bit pumped because I think the Virtuoso is this amazing, sexy, but incredibly dangerous to fly ship. And like even if I can't ever get my hands on one, although I sincerely hope to, I would love to just see someone go out and just spank with that thing. But all the AT ships, of course, just incredibly powerful things, and it would be very cool to see them start to show.
Yeah, for sure.
And CCP's not designing any new ones. It's more of they have the option to recycle the old ones if they just don't have dev time to make new ones.
Yeah, which is fair.
It's still an option.
When they originally said they weren't doing new ones, I thought they meant that would be the starting with this one, there wouldn't be any new ones, and obviously that was incorrect. So maybe there will be new ones in the future.
Yeah, I gotta say, I would really like to see an AT Astero. I heard some rumors that Sisters of Eve might be a AT sponsor in the future.
Oh, the Nesters! I'm already scared.
A Tech 2 Blops Nester.
Oh my gosh!
As much as I would love that spaceship, and it absolutely has a whole place in Eve, it would just be a shame because you wouldn't be able to fly it in the AT.
Yeah, so that was one of the interesting things that was being asked about, right? Like, I mean, obviously, I pretty strongly agree, and I think, Sarah, you're going to agree, Dak, probably, I think you'll agree here too, that we can't have fitting services, you can't have a ship that delivers fitting service, but I think Aurora had said something about looking for a way to, like, disable the fitting service, possibly, so that the Nestor could fly. And that would be interesting because the Nestor is this incredibly powerful ship that you can do damage with, you can do Logi with. Probably would see it more as Logi than anything, so it'd be interesting to see it come out if it could.
Can you a battleship-sized Logi in the AT? Like, that would be redonkulous.
Yes.
It'd be insane, and I love flying the Nestor, and I love flying it as a logistics ship, and I love flying it as a smart bomb ship, firewalling missiles and stuff, but it probably is a bit too strong, to be honest, for a 10v10 format, given the way, the amount of rep output it gives relative to the amount of DPS that can come in is just not balanced.
Yeah.
Having done some C5 wormhole ratting in Lashak Nestor fleets, like, can you imagine that on an AT?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it would be a bit too much. I mean, I want to see Tinkers come back. I really do. Like proper traditional Tinkers, cap feeder T3 logistics cruiser. I also think T3 logistics cruisers with the current state of their remote reps, I think we should find a way of getting them back into the AT because it would give some more viability to Shield Logi as well.
That's an interesting point.
Because it gives another option. The downside is they are quite difficult to fit without using lots of shiny modules, which is why all the ones on TQ are all fit with very shiny modules. But that's an interesting challenge, and I think it would be an interesting challenge to present into back into tournament play. And yeah, Geary Mick in chat makes a good point that the Nesta does have like 600 million rep drones in its bay, which, as we mentioned earlier, are incredibly strong.
Yeah, I don't think the viewers realized. Well, correct me, Sarah. Maybe this was different from you guys, but we put a really heavy emphasis on drone and drone removal for this AT. It felt like it really revolved around, especially Logi drones. I know a lot of the teams we were scrimming and ourselves as well were using skybreakers a lot in a lot of our comps to deal with the drones. It felt like the drone swarm was pretty oppressive.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. And you know, rep drones have always been very, very strong, but they're also one of the things that's properly a pain in the arse to micromanage. And it's where you see good teams really separate themselves from mid-tier teams and okay teams is really good rep bot management. The fact that they're only T1 means that they are very squishy. The Skybreaker coming into the equation at one point is excellent for clearing them and getting rid of them. But equally so is one large smart bomb cycle. I think one medium smart bomb cycle as well. Regarding clearing drones in terms of damage drones in this AT rule set, obviously we have faction damage drones, and faction damage drones on a drone health bonus ship takes some. I can't remember the exact number, but it's something absolutely ludicrous, like 17 large smart bomb cycles to clear Aeneos's faction ogres.
Yeah, it was funny seeing the meta evolve over the months as all the teams were scrimming against each other on Thunderdome, where it started off with everyone who's using Logi drones. So then a lot of teams started running Skybreakers or running things like Jackdaws or Confessors to clear the Logi drones. So then the drone teams were then upshipping to use Gilas for the added hit points. And then because of the Gila hit points, the Skybreakers couldn't break the drones anymore. So a lot of teams dropped the Skybreakers. And then when the Skybreakers went away, the other Logi drones came back. It was like this endless cycle of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, I mean, but equally, that's kind of what tournament play is, right? You know, you spend that's the only reason we won our game today was because we played rock, paper, scissors and we picked the right thing. You know, we picked the right thing into the band set that was available. It's not like I'm going to sit here and proclaim that we flew better than Calsurf. Like, we just picked the right thing. You know, like and it's entirely a game of rock, paper, scissors, and I think that's something to hugely consider. You know, bring a Skybreaker. It's only 1 point, but it does take a slot. But it would clear rep drones very well, unless it gets volleyed. Like someone's Skybreaker got volleyed earlier today, just instantly within a second of the match starting.
Right. It just shows that, you know, the tournament is more than just the tournament itself. You know, that's what I really like the weekly opens that got organized for the teams. Just kind of seeing the teams evolve and make decisions, and everything leads up to this, you know, final moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's always very daunting that, you know, however many months of practice you've done all comes down to, well, essentially 2 10-minute slots and some optimism, and that's really where it ends up. And that's going to be daunting for everyone. It's certainly daunting for everyone on my team, myself included.
Oh, for sure. It's amazing how fast that's over from the time that like you're teleported out of the station you're anxiously waiting in to the time you're teleported back. You're like, what just happened? Like you're kind of reeling, win or loss. You're just like reeling at that was what all those months went into. But it is worth it for the high. You know, Eve is this game of highs and lows and waiting, right?
Yeah,
But,
totally.
it is. I can't say I've had as many adrenaline rushes over a game as I've had with Eve. So I'm very grateful to be a part of this AT and what we've gone through, and I'm very grateful for our team. Like just and feeling it also for like these other teams, you know, like watching you guys with a huge upset, watching our friends across different teams and everything get their wins or get those super close, like, oh, they almost had it and all that, and just feeling the adrenaline, even from that, like by proxy, it's incredible.
Yeah, completely. It's yeah, and you know, someone touched on it earlier. I think it was Dak touched on it earlier how scrims leading up to it are such a roller coaster of highs and lows. I can tell you without doubt that you know, my team has, I think, 15 people total, and the Sunday before yesterday, so a week ago today, we were all looking at each other going, are we really going to bloody do this? Should we just bin it off now? You know, what's the point? Because we're all at each other's throats. We're all very, very frustrated with each other. after weeks of terrible scrim. Well, good scrims, as in our partners were good, but we played terribly, and it just drove us up the wall.
We definitely had some scrims where we finished it and we were like, oh, what are we doing?
Yeah, completely.
I had a pretty big, just nervous breakdown halfway into it where I just was moving real life. And then the AT, which I don't think people realize, captaining an AT team is basically a second full-time job, the number of hours that you got to put into it. So, I mean, that's why I was super grateful for Ish, because if he wasn't with me and running this with me, there's no way we would have made it to tournament day.
Yeah, I mean, it's we were very much a team effort. We have kind of a core of people that have done kind of 5 or 6 ATs, and there's only 4 or 5 of us or something, but we all, every single AT, like almost invariably the week before it, we stand there, stare at each other, and go, "We're never doing this again." And then, and then you get to the end of the AT, and whatever your run was, and you go, "No, we'll do it next year." And then you start the suffering all over again, and it's I've not been doing an awful lot of the organising of scrims and things this year, very intentionally, and I let a bunch of our guys who are very good at that do that for us, as it were, and they did a good job of it, despite my rubbish input due to being all over the shop with work and moving around and stuff, but.
Yeah, I definitely did not know what I was signing up for when I hit that submit button on the application. So
yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah,
it's been a learning experience, but a good one.
Sorry, I just want to say, Karama, I see an interesting question in chat that I'd kind of like to address if you're good with that from Jeremy there.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I was actually just about to ask it.
Yeah, sure. So Jeremy asked for Dak, and I'll let Dak give some input here too. But how much impact does chemistry have, and being familiar with your fellow pilots, being on a team from a corp mostly, and things like that? So I got to say, the immediate answer is there's a huge impact about chemistry. You have to trust your pilots. I mentioned before, you're limited on hulls, you're limited on modules. It's not going to be about who can bling better. It is really about who can fly as a team better. And even though you have, pilots at different levels and different walks in their EVE experience, so you've got people who are like, oh, this guy's just a top-notch X kind of ship pilot, and you can say they can do some exceptional things there, but they're not going to win. Like, one ship is not going to beat 10 other ships. It's always going to be about that team. At the same time, you have to keep some open respect there. We brought in a total of 3 outsiders, people who are not part of our corp, and that we either didn't know at all or didn't know that well going into it. 2 of them came from elsewhere in Horde. 3 of them, came from elsewhere in Horde, and then we had 1 complete merc, from not Horde at all. And it was difficult, right? Because you kind of get this clicky feeling. Fancy Pants is a larger sized corp. I think we're on 1,100 across all our different corps and subcorp, stuff that you end up with, shipping corps, whatever. But we've tried to keep a community feel, and like I said, Dak and I go way back. When I met Dak, Fancy Pants was an 8-man corp or something like that. So we go way back, and we have this bond. We have this bond with a lot of the people in there that we've been with and flown with for years. And then you bring these new people, and you're like, what do I want to do about them? But you have to extend that trust. We learn things like, man, Electra is a really solid just webbing pilot. I can put him in that Ashimu. I can put him in that Hyena. I know I can trust him to pair up well with the team and things like that. And and I know I can put Aaron in the ships that he specializes in, and I'm sure you're going to see some strong performances coming out of him for next weekend. And I know I can get a lot out of what he's doing. And I know Dragon is going to be super reliable with his links and be very dedicated. And I know AP is going to be out there making really good calls about the midline ships he's fielding. And it's just been a really great experience to see that and to build that trust, build those bonds. But you have to have the chemistry. And that doesn't mean things go perfectly. And I think Sarah can probably attest to this too, or anyone out in chat who's been on a team before. You do get at each other's throats sometimes.
Totally.
We've had some raised voices. We've had some, people telling where they can put certain things into what orifices and all of that. But a lot of that there is some tension, there's some nerves, but we come back together. We regroup, apologies are extended. And
Completely.
yeah, I'm just proud of our team for being as cohesive as we are under the kind of pressure that I feel that we're under.
Yeah, I mean we're a completely weirdly dysfunctional small group of people that have been far too close to each other for far too long. If that makes any sense at all, our corp has I think 50 characters in it, 50 people in it, and of which maybe 15 have active subscriptions. No, maybe more. Maybe 20 have active subscriptions at the moment. But we've been around for 10 years or so. We've been around for a very long time. So we all know each other quite well. Those of us that are still kicking about and trying not to kill each other.
And two of the people here are former members.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing is that we have a weirdly broad network. Not weirdly broad. We have a very broad network of people who have been in and at one point in its iteration, Waffles as it is, and our team this year is Waffles and a couple of ex-Waffles basically, and we've got two guys who've never been in Waffles, but they're very close friends, so it might as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that you see some of these super experienced AT teams and they're made up of people who have been flying with each other for years and years. It's just an advantage that can't be really put into words, just not even having to tell someone to do something, just knowing that they're going to do it because that's what they do every time. It allows you to kind of free up headspace to focus on other more important things.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's clearly very different from generic TQ play, right? You can mask stuff, right? You can really easily hide individual failures or individual piloting mistakes, rather. That's a slightly less aggressive way of phrasing it. When you're a large group of people who are all doing something in a cohesive, doctrine, structure, blah blah blah. But in tournament play, you have to rely on people's individual piloting skill, and you have to be able to trust them to make the right decisions without you having to make them for them. I sit in a reasonably fortunate position in that I kind of end up just focusing on my bloody self the entire time because I end up flying Logi because Brett Thomas keeps going off and blumming commentating. But it means that I physically can't concentrate on calling everyone to do whatever they need to be doing. And so we've got guys like Anais who really step up and do that and are very good at it, and then Tyrion and stuff as well. And we've got some very learned heads, but we've also got some brand new guys, not in terms of brand new to us, but we've been playing with a couple of the guys for a couple of years, and we're very very close with them. But they only have like 15-20 mil SP. They're not highly skilled characters, but we can fix that with injectors and things, and it's more of just looking at it from a perspective of, okay, well, I can trust them to do their job, right? And I know what they're going to do, and I know how they're going to behave because I've lost enough fucking spaceships with them on TQ, so I know exactly how they're going to behave when things hit the fan.
Yeah, and I want to say, AT is a surprising equalizer when it comes to SP, right? Sure, if you have perfect skills in X, Y, and Z, it's going to give you a leg up just because, you might get that extra squeeze of shield hit points out or something like that. But we have some characters that, just like you said, don't have that huge piles of SP. I got to give that a shout out. He hasn't gone on our field yet, but Sim... the guy started almost brand new to EVE when the whole AT thing started and just really stepped up and dedicated. He said, I'm just going to spend hours upon hours poring over streams, poring over documents, poring over anything anyone can feed me about intelligence. I'm going to go undock every kind of ship I can manage to undock and afford to undock and figure out how to fly. And he went through our fits and was like, I'm just going to learn PIFA backwards and forwards and contribute that way and say, hey, if we made it this, it gets 0.75 more cap and, things like that.
Holy shit, you're right.
and some of it's like, oh, hold on. You don't understand the more complex mid, and then you get in pipe and you're like, oh, he's right.
Yeah, it's amazing seeing him go from complete new bro to AT participant in a few short months.
And even if you don't have enough SP to fly a battleship well, it doesn't take a huge amount of FC to fly a Jackdaw well. And as we saw over the past couple of days, that's the most important ship pretty much.
Yeah,
Jackdaw's OP, no lie.
Yeah, for sure. But it's completely something that anyone who's kind of looking to be a better tournament player, I think they should look at theory crafting, like 100%, because for me, the way I'm kind of the way I learn and understand what other ships are capable of, what I might need to do to beat a comp or whatever, is by having probably theory crafted something wildly very similar, at some point in the past. And I'd looked at it and I'd gone, okay, well, I know that ship's got this problem, which is why I would rather have this ship, but that's banned, so that's why they're in this, which means that I can exploit that weakness to then do that, and you can kind of follow that logic chain, and you can learn what different things do, which allows you to make better decisions, and as we said earlier, going to give decisions back to the individual pilot rather than doing it from like an FCing perspective, in inverted commas, them having that knowledge, that background, that understanding of why they might make a certain choice at a certain point because they know a weakness in how someone's had to, because of fitting restrictions or whatever, build a certain ship and a certain comp, you know what to do with it, like someone the other day flew some spaceships into us that normally we wouldn't be very scared of, and I evaporated, and and I'd never even thought about that spaceship before, and then I went back and looked at it and went, well, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. It's got massive application bonuses, and so it worked perfectly for exactly what they were trying to do with it in that particular instance, and I learned something, and going and having that breadth of understanding of different potential matchups, comps, spaceships, where they might want to sit on the grid, etc., allows you to put them in more uncomfortable positions, which allows you to ultimately win, which is what we all like doing. I mean, the taking part's fun, but winning's what we all love. So,
exactly.
I have to briefly, channel my Trash Talk Tuesday spirit and say Cabal Horde will start putting more quantum cores in different structures when you can blow them up better. Sorry, had to put that out.
From a completely outside perspective, Horde, please don't put more quantum cores in more structures. I quite like it when people walk to non-tetherable structures. Thank you.
Yeah, I have seen people forget. I've seen people forget, and some pretty expensive ships that you can find if you want to dig through some kill mails from Horde. But yeah, it does happen.
I love sinoing in a jump freighter onto a structure and then getting that momentary panic before you can dock when you realize you can't tether.
I may or may not have signed it in a jump freighter with a very expensive cargo to a structure it found out I couldn't dock at all. That was pretty exciting.
Move to low sec. Move to low sec. Don't bother with structures. Dock in NPC stations. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
There's 1,000 of you. You'd make a good stab of low sec. It'd be fun.
Yeah, but I mean, we just really like being in Horde. I mean, we before the AT, we fought in the big war against goons, which was a good time. Horde is just a really great community to be in, especially like Ish said at the beginning of the episode. Being able to just have people bring fights to our doorstep is nice. Everyone knows, come on down to LXQ for a good time. There's pretty much always someone in system looking for a fight. So it definitely has some perks.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I've spent time in Horde. We've spent time in Horde, etc., etc. Horde is a good group of people. It's a good place to be. Not a Horde shill, but it doesn't quite fit with. Well, it didn't quite fit with how we wanted to play the game, and this, that, and the other. But it is a very good place to be. Of the big blocks, but I am definitely not a proponent of big blocks.
I know you do have that kind of that guilt because you're like, man, the game would be so much better if all the big blocks split up. Meanwhile, here I am in a big block, part of the problem.
Yeah, literally.
I know exactly what you mean there.
Yeah, it's a real are we the baddies kind of moment.
Yeah, Hans, are we the baddies?
Yeah. There's skulls on our hats. Anyway, it's no, completely. It's something that everyone likes. In theory, anyway, the big battles that end up in the news and this, that, and the other, if this, that, and the other, and everyone likes to drop their Titans and drop their supers and this, that, and the other, and also have the wonderful warm fuzzy blanket that is SRP for Titans and supers and things. Well, a magnificent notion, but equally, I have to look at myself and go, okay, what for me would Eve? What would be more fun on the daily basis in Eve, right? And for me personally, it's way smaller than that. Like I can't do the day long tie dye stuff anymore. It's not for me. So I look at it and go, well, I better steer myself and steer my team in the direction I want to propagate. And yes, that sucks half the time because look, there's 150 guys coming to shoot all 15 of us. Like it's a bit rough. But you've got to find a way to win, right? And that's something that I find really fun as well. Like I'm a huge fan of trying to win the fight before you've even undocked, from a understanding your win condition, but then to always undock regardless. Like if that makes any sense at all.
For sure.
Eve is a game of chess before you undock, and sumo wrestling afterwards. And I
Very
just love
much
it.
so.
I just love it. And I agree. You got to get out of the game what you want. Member burnout is something we think about a lot, and obviously the word burnout has been stuck in our heads ever since we started this whole AT thing. I think, Sarah, it comforts me to hear that, as many ATs as you and your team have been through, that you feel the same way, because there were times it's like, what are we doing? Like, why even do this? Is it actually worth this head exploding, stress and work and labor and frustration? But it is in the end. And it just feeling the high and just riding the high, even after this match where we didn't unfortunately clinch that win, just feeling it and knowing that was a team that we put out there in front of over 5,000 people, and we did a hell of a job with what we had to work with, and it's a thing and it feels good. But as far as Eve as a whole, you get out of it what you put in, and you got to put in what you enjoy. And that we work with members in our corp all the time, down to a one-on-one basis, sometimes through announcements or things like that, for the people who may be less vocal or not willing to approach us, that sort of thing. Look for the things you're enjoying. We're a very PvP-centric corp, but we believe PvP takes all kinds of flavors. And yeah, we have the people that null block fleets are kind of their jam, and they're just in them, and they'll be in there getting 200, 300 kills in the month without a problem, because they just, know how to get that DPS in and fly with it, and they enjoy that. And we have other people who are like, I'll show up if R10's on fire, but otherwise you're going to catch me hanging out in low sec in my little solo frigs, or in this over here in the small gang, things like that. And we try to provide a variety of activities about that. I'm a big believer that just because you're in a null block doesn't mean you should just fly the null block way all the time. You need to understand, I tell everyone that comes into the corp, you will be a better null block pilot if you get out there way outside of your comfort zone and go lose some ships in low sec, go lose some ships in a small fleet, go completely whelp. We try to train FCs, we try to teach new people and Fancy Pants to be FCs who have never FC'd a fleet before. We're like, go whelp this fleet. Here you go. Here's some stabbers, or here's some thrashers, whatever. Go lose. You're gonna lose every single ship. It's gonna fail miserably, and you're gonna come back and tell me that you want to do it again, because you will.
So the only thing I would say to contest that, right, and completely non-criticism at all, but the notion of go lose, right? Whereas I very much am of the opinion of go win, right? Figure out what your win condition is, and we'll figure out how to get there.
Sure.
If that makes sense. And so I just anecdotally, earlier this year, we had massive burnout as a corp, because, as I say, there's 15 to 25 of us who are subscribed at any one time. And we were fighting 140 guys. So we were pretty heavily outnumbered in terms of real people to real people. So, multi-boxing, it got a bit closer, but not quite so much. Anyway, but the long short of it was that we had a very specific set of criteria, right? We couldn't do this because they'd made that move. We couldn't do that because they'd made that move, and we had to look at that chessboard in front of us and figure out how we were going to come out and still achieve what we wanted to achieve, and to avoid not undocking, if that makes sense. Because if I'm pinging a fleet, we're undocking. It's happening. If I'm telling everyone I need you to be there to make this, we're going to find a way and we're going to make it work. And we ended up facing, we've got fairly large number of reasonably experienced pilots who have loads of alts and dreads and supers and titans and all this shit. I've got 8 dreads, and I've got another guy with 6, and this, that, and the other. So it's okay, well, between us we've got a pretty good dread fleet. But I'm also FCing the fleet and trying to figure out everything else at the same time. And you look at it and go, okay, well, the opposition had 85 dreads. Right, I don't have 85 dreads. I've got 30 dreads, so I can't take 30 dreads and drop them into 85 dreads, because that's just a lose. Right, you don't win. You can't win that. It's not going to happen. even though all of ours were better kitted out, it's still not going to win. So you've got to look at it and go, okay, well, what can I do? Okay, well, they're going to leverage their capital advantage, and they're going to use triage and heavy armor, right? Because that's what I had been using against their the people that had brought those guys in, if that makes sense. Because I could win the dread fight on that. And so I looked at that, and we looked at that as a team, and we went, okay, well, we still need to undock because we still want to fight, you know. And how do you beat Macarials and Tempest fleet issues with artillery and things like that, and with loads of triage support and with dreads aplomb. And the answer that we came to ended up being 100 MN healers because we'd used them. We tried it years ago in Providence against Provi, and somehow won down there doing that. So we thought, bugger it, we'll give it a go here, and it works. And you've got to find a way of still undocking, and you're able to then pursue conflict and not just not undock because it doesn't fit your doctrine list or whatever. So we completely flexed that in 6 hours. So we completely flexed that. I very much upset a bunch of our guys with jump freighters and said, right, I need to bring in 50 healers in the next 6 hours, please, including all their fittings, everything. We'll figure it out. We'll figure the whole thing out, and we're going to give this a go. And it worked. And I think that's, you know, and we then went and gave that, we said, right, you know how to fly a overpropped ship, you can anchor it, and then you can be the drone bunny, and then we'll look at the dreads and figure out what we're doing with that, and things like that. And you kind of got to play around that very small core of people, and I find that really good fun, and that chess game really good fun.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and I also want to say, you know, I make the joke about, you know, go out and lose, and you're absolutely right. You do need to think about the winning. Don't just throw your head at a wall. We try to set them up for some success. We always make sure there's a backseat, but I also want to take the stress off of everyone, even someone who's, you know, a little bit more experienced. You got to take some stress off about losing, because you can definitely get in this trap where you outthink yourself and Eve. Like, it is such a meta game, right? It is such a meta game. You can get like so far in your head that you can't win anymore. And actually, so, you know, shout out to Varianek. We scrimmed minions one time, and he actually told me, "You're too much in your head right now." He asked me a question. He's like, "Why are you doing this and this? Why did you do this when you scrimmed against it just now?" It's like, "Well, I did this because I thought of this, and it's because of this. Oh, and by the way, I have this." And you know, like, it's like, you know that meme with the guy like drawing and connecting the pins on the blackboard, and he looks all crazy. It was like that, but in chat text. And he's like, "You're too far in your head right now." And it was actually good advice.
Yeah, completely. And I think it's. I wasn't trying to criticize saying go out and lose. I was saying
no, I understand.
Go out with the intention of winning, and then losing is fine, if that makes sense. So like the pressure is not there, but the objective is still to go out and win, if that makes sense. That's the mindset I try and have anyway.
I think when it comes down to what Deesh is approaching is just the accessibility of it, which is
totally
touched on with the AT. Like, this AT was great because of how accessible it was. You know, we saw a lot of young blood in the tournament, you know, Fancy Pants included. We're definitely a brand spanking new team. There were a couple others as well, plus, you know, lots and lots of them in the feeder rounds. And I do think it's kind of the culture of EVE has shifted a bit compared to when I first started playing to today. Because I remember when I first started playing, you know, FCing a fleet was a highly guarded thing. No one just took a fleet out. Like, that was not something that happened with these alliance null blocks. And if you whelped a fleet, it was almost like you got a black mark on your name. It's like, oh, don't let him take the fleet out. You know, he whelped a Macarial fleet, you know, last month. Don't trust him with it. And I think now it's something Fancy Pants really supports. It's something Horde really supports, which is why we're with Horde. And it's just the idea of anyone can FC. You know, anybody can have the FC, ping a fleet, see who wants to join you, and take it out, because you don't need anyone's permission to go out and have fun.
Yeah, completely. And to kind of to kind of go back in EVE history a little bit. I don't know how far back your EVE history goes, but before Horde, the first attempt PL had of generating a group that was to create them good pilots and more talent, as it were, to feed their ranks was Waffles, right? And so part of our core ethos back in the day, it was categorically everyone had to FC. You didn't have a choice. Um, it was part of our activity requirements was that every single person in the Corp FC. And it was drilled into everyone from minute one that you have to go out and you have to FC, because otherwise you're essentially not active, which is, perhaps a slightly intense view of it, but it was what it was, and the core ethos of the Corp was be useful, right? And the core ethos of the Corp was maximum fun per hour. So back in the days when you could undock from Kanaka, where we used to be based, in a thorax fleet, and run into someone with a mower fleet, they're not there. They don't exist anymore, and that's me with my rose-tinted spectacles looking back at it. But
come on over to Fancy Pants territory. We'll fight you with thrashers and cormorants all day. Come on,
Yeah,
We'll let back mallards into your thoraxes for sure. But
yeah, that.
Rose-tinted spectacles, because you forgot the part where someone forgot to upgrade their clone. So
that is the small side issue on that one.
We've been doing a movie night for Fancy Pants. Our own Helena has been organizing that and putting that up, and we kind of kicked off movie night for several weeks because there's so many good Eve videos, right? There's all these Eve videos from history, things like fictional stuff like Clear Skies that has all this great nostalgia, but also stuff,
that's what started it. Is someone said like, "Oh, Clear Skies," and another Corp member said, "What's Clear Skies?" And comms went silent. It's like, all right, we're doing movie night. Let's go.
Yeah.
Every hipster in the Eve Corp was like, "You haven't seen Clear Skies?" Losing their mind. You're right. But yeah, watching some of those and watching the captured footage of some of the very first pipe bombs and hearing people say I hope you remember to upgrade your clones. This game has an incredible history, and it all started because all these people who are now these revered people, either they've moved on from Eve or and retired, or they're still playing, and all these people are like, oh, these are legends, these are people you can't touch with a 10-foot pole. They all started by undocking a stabber, they all started by undocking a something and just trying to shoot whatever, and that accessibility is huge.
Oh, completely. And I think that's something that we it does still exist in Eve, but it exists in different places to where it used to exist. It's probably my biggest pet peeve about LowSec is that and the way LowSec has gone and what LowSec has become is it's no longer somewhere that happens, right? Because it was a super easy access springboard for people to kind of saunter in from HighSec. And again, this is me being disappointed with where LowSec has gone, but I can't deny that the part of the LowSec arms race, I was there. I was part of it. I got the Titans. I got the Supers. I got the Dreads. I got the Faxes. We joined in the arms race. We did, and that arms race plus the lack of viable income generation in LowSec killed LowSec, and it kind of did. In terms of as a place to live. But
Sarah, wouldn't the third thing be that the big NullSec Alliance also vastly increased their acceptance of new players? Because it used to be a long time ago, you'd have to spend some time in LowSec, flying around in LowSec before you could get into a NullSec Alliance, but now you don't have to do anything before you get into a NullSec Alliance.
Oh yeah, when I started, it was all about you had to get vouches in, and people this is where this whole culture of closely guarding your kill board comes from, which is thankfully I think starting to die off, where people don't take it nearly as seriously anymore. But getting some red on your kill board used to be a big deal. I remember losing a ship and people in the Alliance, people in the Corp just yelling at you and berating you. If you think it's bad now and people making fun of people, it used to be what were you thinking? You how could you do this?
Eve used to be a much more intense game. It was. I do recall, days of interrogations after you lost something, doing something stupid.
Oh yeah, when I first joined Waffles, I joined only within the past couple of years and then left last year. I was expecting something like that because I had heard what about it used to be like, but then it was much more relaxed than I had heard.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, we often sit around the campfire proverbially and talk about victories past and battles fought and all this, that, and the other. Some of us older lot, and as well as some of the younger guys go and talk through, some of the Corp history and stuff, and what we've done, what we didn't do so well, and where things went, and the roller coaster that was, life in Eve. And something that we've all realized is, we all got older, right? We all grew up.
I think it was
We all mellowed out a little bit.
We all grew up. We all mellowed out, and now the running meme of dad waffles, is not a lie. It's a real thing. We all kind of grew up and got families, had kids, and this and the other, and it kind of, we all chilled out, all mellowed out, and you can't. I don't think it's sustainable in the in the current year, as it were, and the last couple of years, maybe 4 years, to be that like super elite and super elitist,
Agreed.
very angry group anymore. It's not what video games have become, right? You think back to the earlier. God, I sound very old. To the early days of the internet, to the earlier days of the internet. Then you think back to how people played games and how people interacted with video games. I watched a very interesting thing on YouTube the other day about the kind of the resurgence of the MMO, and it touched on, because it's always been my favorite type of game, right? And it's because for me it's about a group of people, and that group of people progressing and growing as a group and reaching its potential, right? But that takes time, right? And today the most popular games in the world are all instant gratification. You look at things like League of Legends. It's a game where you sign into the client, you click go, and you're in a game.
Yeah,
And that's just how people play games now, and that's okay, and that's fine, and that's absolutely what it is. But and it's brought video games to a wider audience, which is great. And it's a more culturally normalized thing to do. I went to. I don't actually play League of Legends, but it's a good analogy because I was over in St. Louis on business a couple of years ago now, and I actually ended up at the North America League of. Well, I was looking for something to do. It was a Saturday night, and I just arrived, got my flight in. I was kind of not going to sleep anyway, so I was looking for something to do, and I ended up wandering into the League of Legends North America final of some description. I don't know what it is, and there was this basketball stadium just packed out with people. Just thousands of people in this basketball stadium. There was a very highly expensive light show going on. There were wristbands, there was merch, there was everything. It was properly a spectacle. And I just thought, this has gone a long way from when me and my mates used to turn up in someone's, back room and and play Age of Empires.
Oh yeah,
Age of Empires 4 just came out, and that brings me back to 20 years ago when I was a little kid first getting into video games.
It's I gotta say, with the longevity of this game, it's kind of disgusting that I'll end up talking to someone in the corp, like maybe someone who's new to the corp or something like that, and be like, yeah, so I've played Eve a little while, go a little bit back into it, and he's like, yeah, I played Eve like for a long time, like 10 years ago when I was 8, and I'm like, oh gosh. Oh,
Yeah.
The
It
thing
also
about
just-
growing up is true, Sarah, for sure.
It also just shows how far the game still has to go too. Because I recently went to a League of Legends match. They played at the TD Garden, which is like an NBA basketball stadium with tens of thousands seats. Then this video game competition is selling out these massive arenas, and I imagine what would the world look like if Eve could sell out a massive arena for the AT for a watch party.
Yeah, and it's super cool. And it's super cool to see how games have changed over time, and how esports has kind of become a thing that wasn't just a few of us at DreamHack or whatever. It's it's been super cool, and I think there's plenty of life left in Eve. I do kind of slightly subscribe to the YouTube video I watched the other day, which was saying that we're in for the resurgence of the MMO. I think the huge release of Amazon's MMO and how many people started playing that, maybe not quite so many now, but how the number of people that started playing that is clearly indicative of the MMO still being an appetizable thing. But I think culturally, We've all, as people and as the internet in general, have grown up a bit. We're not quite so edgy anymore. Like everyone, and everyone used to cringe at some groups in Eve, because they were a little bit edgy.
We've seen the memes. We've seen the memes.
without naming any names, and I think that kind of doesn't really happen anymore. Like, you guys are talking about your corp, your group, and how you guys are pretty mellow and pretty chill about stuff. And I think, weirdly enough, something about that has in Eve has to go down to Goonswarm, really. How Goons changed the face of Eve from being a weirdly intense nullsec environment where you had to have this, you had to have that, you went through 7,000 API checks, and someone put their hand up your backside to make sure that you weren't lying, and and all this stuff just to be able to play the game with a specific group of people. And then Goons and then Horde properly just opened the doors and said, yeah, it's Sonic, come in. And they that huge number of people allows to really embrace upon that instant action, instant gratification style of video games that that people seem to be into now. Albeit perhaps not quite what Eve is geared towards, but with things like the Abyss, etc., it's adding elements of it. The thing I just want to see is more other roaming gangs out in space, right? So when often the major criticism of nano ganging and small ganging is, oh, well, you're just out there to go and gank defenseless crabs, and realistically, that's the case because there isn't another nano gang hunting them.
Yeah. Say what you want about Blackout, but my favorite part of Blackout was roaming around in small gangs and then just like running into another small gang on a gate.
Absolutely.
Like that is the most fun in Eve you can have, is just being out there. And I mean, there's no such thing as a fair fight in Eve, but there are more or less fair fights, and those are some of the best moments the game has to offer.
Yeah, completely. And I am absolutely 100% behind the notion of I don't want to gank crabs. I don't care. They're boring. They don't fight back. I don't stand a chance of losing. I don't stand a chance of losing shooting an AFK Ishtar in a belt or whatever. It's not a belt, in a nom, but you know what I mean. I don't stand a chance of losing. I don't get the risk. I don't get the PvP rush, the shakes, whatever. It doesn't happen for me, But if someone turns up and starts shooting back at me, with something that's engageable, but if they do this and they have the edge on me, and if I do that then I have the edge on them, then that's hugely engaging and that's hugely exciting.
Yeah, I will say I do think CCP is moving in the right direction. They've added a lot of really cool things that, while need some tuning, are definitely steps in the right direction. Like, I think adding the ESS sites was huge. I got a lot of good fights. I know everyone complains now that it's just Marauders online, but for a while there we were getting some really good fights in the ESSs, and you can still get them every now and then depending on the group you hit.
Oh, I love the ESSs. I think the ESSs have been a great addition to the game. I think there's absolutely stuff that could be changed, tweaked, done about them, but I think it absolutely gives a great spot for someone to turn up and do some asymmetric warfare. Yep. And I think that's what's great about it, because fundamentally, being a very small group, we're an asymmetric warfare group, and we're an asymmetric warfare kind of people. So yeah. Yes, it's Marauders Online, but that ship class finally got some love. It was
true. It's not like it's a long dominant. It's not like it's Munins. So that's true. It's like it's fine for a new ship to get some limelight.
Absolutely, and also add to the fact that Marauders aren't cheap spaceships, right?
True. And a big morale boost when you kill one.
And it's also quite good fun to fly them and to try and desperately not to die to 1,000 people chasing after you. That's quite good fun. So, we went to...
I was just going to say, and then I'm also just really optimistic about the new crab sites. Whaling is one of my favorite activities in this game. I love whaling, so it's nice seeing CCP spread that love around.
Especially
Yeah.
if we can get some actual like proper capital warfare on top of them, like people will drop the save and some response counter response. So I have a controversial balance statement, and I think this can make some anger. Maybe someone will agree that there's a point to this. So you got the stellar observation. You get the stellar observatory, right? You have this new thing that you can deploy because of the factor cloak destabilization. So you cloak now after 15 minutes, you're unstabilized cloak, so you're still cloaked. But if there's an observatory deployed, there's a chance of actually picking you up and being aware of you even though you're cloaked, which I think was actually a great addition to the game. Now you can't literally like AFK cloaky hunt stuff just to ruin things. I think that the capability of the Stellar Observatory should be put into a high fitting cost module. What I want to see is I want to see some efforts where you talk about those Marauders in the ESS sites, right? And of course, one of the boring parts about it is those are cloaked paladins. You go into the ESS site, all of a sudden there's all these paladins decloaked, and you've just entered the Thunderdome, and you're just going to get lasered out by these super high tracked paladins that just obliterate you. But if you had a module, if you just had a chance, not a certain one, but a chance to do like a pulse low AoE detection of someone who's been cloaked for a while and has reached destabilization, I think that brings back some of the balance to the game. I think it would also get people to undock in cases where they might otherwise be too fearful.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I'm not sure I have gone into enough ESSs where there were cloaked marauders waiting to kill me to form a valid opinion, but I am aware of how annoying that must be. I mostly do the going into the ESSs, burning to the other side of the ESS, triggering the thing, and then getting people to come at me in my marauder. And that's quite good fun, particularly when they come in with an organized fleet, and you've got to think about, okay, well, can I, hit this guy, then hit this guy, then hit this guy, then hit this guy? Okay, right, fine, I've got a chance of breaking this logi now, bang, and that's something that I find quite good fun.
I love the Bushido culture too with ESS. You can sometimes get like I remember someone was trying to steal a Horde ESS and they were just in a solo Drekovic. So I'm like, all right. And I just got in a Drekovic because no one else was responding to the ESS. I'm like, I'll just go 1v1 this guy in the mirror match and see how it works. And you get some fun fights that way.
Yeah, I mean, I was super excited for the ESSs when they first came out. I think I spent like 30 bill on a Sleipnir fleet with Loki Logis and stuff that I intended to go into hostile ESSs and brawl it out at 0. Unfortunately, I encountered a small issue with, I think it was 84 healers on the inside of an ESS.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm
it was a little much for 12 of us, but it was close.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to get back to doing some normal stuff. AT's kind of been consuming my life for the last month.
It does, and I mean the memes ring true. Back in the day when everyone was like, "Oh, PL's not going to do anything." Why? It's AT season. Back when they were the boogeyman.
Right. I never thought I'd look forward to an ISK making fleet, but it'll be nice to just kind of park on a rock and chill out for a bit.
It's good fun. I mean, it's been weird actually because we realistically haven't been doing much Eve other than AT scrims, because you do X number of AT scrims and it's quite all encompassing. And as we mentioned earlier, we're all getting older and we all have a little bit less time. So
I know. I feel I've been neglecting my core mates because I'm the CEO of Fancy Pants, and every time I've logged on, it's been on to Thunderdome and then onto our AT specific Discord server. So like the few times in the past month where I've been able to get onto the normal server, all the non AT team members are like, "Dak, you're still alive. We thought our CEO abandoned us." So I have some making up to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we also, kudos to the members of Fancy Pants who were not able to or were not as interested in participating in the AT this year because they helped in huge ways to hold it together. So let's see, we have, is it just 3 directors? So 2 directors and a CEO on this team. Is that right, Dak? Am I missing anybody?
Yes. Well, Crunch is our IT guy, so I mean
that's true. Yep,
he's honorary team member.
Yeah, so we had we tied up a lot of people, and then a bunch of our what we call our team leads, but like the people who help hold things together, are heavily involved as well. So like it really also was a time for a lot of people throughout our corp who help support. And like I've said to Fancy Pants in our Discord, the energy and support means a ton. Just to know, like, it's very, very cool to go onto the Horde Discord, to go onto the Fancy Pants Discord, and just see people like cheering for you and like saying like, hey, they can do it, and like, making their comments that they see as they watch the match, and they're hopeful and their cool hopeful spam emojis and all that stuff. So that's just awesome to see.
I think that's something for us as well. It's a huge morale boost, and I said earlier we all look at each other slightly before AT and go, "We're never doing this again," and afterwards we go, "We're definitely doing this again." And it's when we get everyone hops onto comms to watch the match, and that team spirit, that camaraderie is just so uplifting, because you sit in a different channel when you're doing the actual fight, and you're obviously ecstatic with you guys when you've won, but then when you shift everyone back into the kind of channel where everyone's been watching, and everyone's just so ecstatic for whatever the hell you've done, that feeling, that noise, that is great fun, and it's so enjoyable.
Yeah, couldn't do it without him.
It's oh God, I wish I had like a bunch of team leads and things. That sounds very intense. There's 4 of us directors, and we could forever yell at each other and argue. And then there's and there's everyone else who does all the actual work. And it's
just like real life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, see, and it's funny because, like I mentioned, when I met Dak, Fancy Pants is an 8-man corp. I joined a corp, that was in the same alliance as him, and it turned out to be a total scam. So some people know that story, my history. That could be a whole show. In fact, like people who come on, you should do this, Karami. You should have people bring on their horror stories of the past. Horrible experiences
worst alliance director.
Yes. Oh gosh. We don't even need to name names. I'm not even going to name and shame here. It's just like the stories. It's a good word of caution for people who are newer to Eve to be careful who you get involved with, and to really vet that corp as much as they're vetting you, and in fact even harder. But so when I met Dak, it was like an 8-man corp. Then some things, I moved to another corp where I was a director. That imploded because of yet another really surprise scam. That's a whole other good story. So I knew in an instant, like, okay, I know what I can do here, because I was at a point where I had to take a step back from Eve because of things going on in real life and everything. I was like, I know how I can help these dudes with our corp imploding is to send them to Dak and to send them to Fancy Pants. Even though Fancy Pants is a small corp, is like, I know they're going to grow. I know that they're going to be successful, and I know that Dak has the utmost of integrity, so I get to send them to that. So when it started, it was like, Dak and Crunch and some other people, like, and Jeffrey and everything, just kind of like holding the fort together. I rejoined eventually, came back to Eve because certain people wouldn't stop bothering me about it. So I eventually got lured back into the pretty internet spaceships online, and we started having to build out this real structure. And like, you don't want to get overly bureaucratic, right? I've seen people, I may or may not have an alt or two in certain other corps, that sort of thing happens, right? But I've seen the ways some other corps run, and some of it makes a lot of sense to me. And it's like, oh, that's a cool idea. That's neat that they came together that way. And some of it's like, they have like 36 roles and like 2,000 hidden channels and all this bureaucracy. And it's like, no, you can't pass. And just reminds me of the old Viceroy days and crap like that. And it's like, I really appreciate a more open model. At the same time, as you start exploding in growth like Fancy Pants did, you start having to build out some new structure, and you start to have to trust people. We went from having just a handful of directors to having multiple directors, so we could cover all these time zones, being spread across so many time zones Fancy Pants is, and then having hey, we have these people who are like, it's not just 4 people anymore who want to log on for Blops. It's like 20. Now it's like 30. Now it's like, okay, we should probably just have our own Blop SIG, even in addition to Horde SIG, like just for people to do stuff. Oh, we should put someone competent in charge of that. Oh, we should, people want to do this. People want to have a corp capital group. We have enough capitals to drop, let's do it. And, things like that. So putting people into those different positions, you have to extend that trust, and you have to figure out how do we make something that enables leadership? And that's something I'm proud of Fancy Pants for doing. I think we've done a great job, not just like having good members, but training up people from some of them being brand new to Eve to being like, now they go out and they FC those things. They're a team lead of something. They're in charge of stuff. It's very gratifying.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't in recent history had to have that sort of a structure. Fortunately for my own sanity, I do enough of that in the 9 to 5, as it were. But it's one of the unique things about Eve is how how organized everyone is. Like I'm always particularly in awe of goons and how well they organize themselves and how well they execute like that. And they are bloody good at it, and you can't really fault them for it. They're very good at it, and it works, and they do a very good job out of it. But equally, the other groups are just as well organized. Horde is particularly astonishingly well organized, given their very, very open and very, very flat structure. They work very well. They essentially carried all the blooming weight in that previous war. That no one talks about anymore, which is a shame. But there you go. And it's very impressive to me. But I'm not envious. I must admit, I am not envious because I cannot imagine what Gobbin's Discord looks like.
Oh, right.
Like mine is an absolute shit show already. Like, add the email inbox, add my Eve mails. Why do people email me? I don't know, but they do. And
CC, please give us the ability to auto reply to email. Like, please don't do this anymore.
And you go, I'm just very glad I'm not them. When we kind of spin up and do stuff as like a little campaign every now and again, essentially. Like, so at the moment we don't have any campaign running. Earlier this year, we had a campaign to Syndicate, which was great, good fun, and we put down some structures and stuff, and it was fun. But we don't currently have a campaign, and when we spin up for a campaign, I know full well how my life descends into answering thousands of messages a day from every which way corner of the universe, and it's fun, but also kind of going, hang on a minute, this is properly a second job. So it's quite nice that I can pick it up and put it down, but someone like Gobbins can't really. That the size of that the entity that is Horde, and the number of moving parts and interfaces with it, I'm not envious at all.
Yeah, I do have to give Gobbins a shout out. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for Gobbins, I don't think Fancy Pants would be where it is today, because he took a chance on us in the beginning. That when he accepted Fancy Pants into Horde, I think we had like maybe 10 real people, and from that 10 real people, we're up to now several hundred with over 1,000 alts. He's definitely done a really great job in putting Horde together and just having Horde be a place where people can come and do what they want to do and have fun, because Gobbins could have easily turned around and said, no, you guys can't have your own AT team. You have to try out for the regular AT team. He could have easily said, no, you guys can't do this because we need you doing this instead. We need you focusing on this. But, for the years that I've known Gobbins, he's never, dropped an iron fist saying we have to do something. It's always been, hey, you guys are important. You're important to the Alliance, and it'd be great if you could do this. And he also gives us the freedom that we can have fun and make sure we keep this a game and not be a job. So
yeah,
I have the utmost respect for him for that.
And whenever we've interfaced with Horde, past, present, I'm sure future, Gobbins has always been a thoroughly reasonable chap to deal with, and a good bloke. It's all very interesting how different Eve is to every other blooming game on the planet in that regard, in terms of structures and systems, and everyone mentions the IT side of it, and it's something that people don't really understand going into it, but it's mad, absolutely nuts, but also brilliant in its own little weird way.
It really is, and like just the amount of infrastructure and admin work. People make the jokes about spreadsheets online, but it's also Discord online. It's also just this incredible amount of work. People are writing custom code. Crunch from R-Corp is a heavy contributor to Alliance Auth, and I know we've got a lot of people. You got people like Squiz Caffeinator have been keeping these amazing tools alive, and a bunch of people. I laugh when those surveys go out. It's like, how often do you play Eve? And I'm like, how often do I not play Eve if we're counting like Discord online? It's like, it's probably close to 24/7 if we're counting Discord. How often do I play Eve, or how often do I open the Eve client? Those are two really different questions. That's for sure. But at the same time, like, the thing that keeps me coming back to Eve, because I think we've all taken our share of breaks. You put down the game of it, things like that. But the thing that makes you come back to it is there's nothing quite like this Eve community, and there's nothing quite like what's been built here, because because of the intersection of the game itself and how it functions, the longevity of the game, the kind of things that build up in corps, I think I said before, -10 is like love. I think he says like a brutal love or something like that, and that's definitely true. But I poke fun at Corps Alliances, and we all get on Reddit and get out our pom poms and do the cheering and the propaganda. But at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect, for the people who do leadership in this and the people who do things in this game and keep this content going for so long in a game that just depends on that manufacture of content.
Yeah, and I think, as we all mentioned earlier, it entirely depends on content creators and content enablers, and they're two different strings of people in my head, but they're both critically important to the longevity of any group and any activity, right? I have always, since I begrudgingly, I didn't want it, but took up a leadership role in Waffles. I've always believed that it is critical that we partake in engageable content. We go and do something that other people can go and interact with us in, right? There's no point us going and rolling someone that can't stand up to us, and there's equally no point in us going and doing something where we're just going to get rolled because they have no interest in actually having a scuffle. And so that kind of being a content enabler and being able to put and position from a leadership perspective your group in a position where other groups can interact with you. You are not this unassailable, sat under the super umbrella mess. That is something that I hugely try and live by for our corp, and something that I like to see when other people do as well.
Definitely.
And I think more people with that mindset can only be good for the game. And I think things like the ESSs are an excellent position for relatively instant, rapid gratification, asymmetric warfare, which I think we've discussed is, we all think is a good thing, and we all think is a thing that is kind of where video games, in inverted commas, are, in the current state of people's mind. And I like to see stuff like that. I like the Abyss. I don't always participate in it because it's not always a ship class I fancy, but there are some ship classes I love, and I'll always go for that and lose a bunch of money doing that.
I would like there to be more mechanics in the game to drive like medium-sized groups and have medium-sized objectives, so that the big coalitions like Goons and Horde and Frat and Test when they get back on their feet, giving incentives for them to kind of like send out raiding parties almost. Like it would be cool if there was just like you needed to hold certain parts in space, but it wasn't worthwhile to deploy the entire alliance, so Goons could be like, yo, Bastion, go over here and do this, or
that's so hard from a game design perspective.
It is. I don't envy the designer's job, but it would be fun if there was something like that to encourage that, more like medium-sized deployment instead of this all or nothing that we have now.
It's one of those problems that you look at it and go, okay, right, so what we need to go and develop some degree of content that's worthwhile doing for a smaller entity, but not worthwhile doing for a larger entity that can't be done over a massive scale, but can be done over a small scale, but it's constrained by logistical complexity because the smaller
because it's like we need to make it's because it ultimately comes down to reward. We need to make the reward nice enough that people actually want to do it, but not nice enough that too many people want to do that. Like that is a hard balance.
Or they end up in a case where they have to artificially limit how or who can participate, like for example the Abyssals, right, or the Proving Grounds, or things like that, which have their place. And it's like you have to balance that, or it becomes too much of like a scenario game and not the sandbox game we love. So I don't envy development for that.
I feel a better example of that though is the ESS keys, because I feel the ESS keys were a mechanic that really had promise in that direction. It's just they need some tweaking because right now the numbers just don't make it worth it. But I do think like things like the ESS keys encouraging like medium-sized groups to go after a finite resource that a large alliance can't really go after, but that you still need enough, punching power to be able to secure. I thought that was a great idea, but it didn't really work out on delivery.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit I haven't done anything with the ESS keys. They were prohibitively expensive to go and pick one up to then go and bob into horde space to then encounter 200 people. Like that was
That's what we ran into too. We wanted to do them too, and it just came down to like we're making like 150 million profit on each key after like costs because they're so expensive right now, and I have to bring a 5 to 10 billion isk fleet in order to make 150 to 300 million. It's not worth it. Like I think the costs on the ESS keys need to come way down in order.
Well, the repeatability of them is terrible. Like, so we had people running the actual, like, the originating PVE content that gets you those keys instead of just buying them. And it started out somewhat manageable. You know, it had some members like really dedicate some research and development towards that and really go into it whole hog. And they said it just kept getting cranked up and up to the point where it's like, okay, here's what we need to do to run it. And we look at that number, we're like, yeah, that's not a feasible thing that you can bring to a PVE field in a place where you can actually be. There's a decent degree of gankability out of it, if that's a word. So, I think the PVE, I think the ESS key obtainability needs to be tweaked all the way around.
I think either the ESS keys need to be much easier to get, or they need to greatly increase the payout you get off of each key. Because, like I said before, we running the math, like each key costs about 1 billion isk to acquire, and then you can make about 150 to 300 million in profit. And that's so 1 billion isk just for the key. Then you have to put a 5 to 10 billion isk fleet in space that you could risk running. And the entire thing could be a complete waste. You're putting all this risk out there. You need to do it with several people. So you're also just taking up people's time for just such a measly payout. It's just not worth it. People are just going to go rat.
Again, it's this catch-22 design decision, because if you make the keys sufficiently cheap that they're sufficiently profitable, they will just get emptied. Like Horde will just buy them all, or what? Not Horde. I don't care who. Like Horde, Frat, Goons, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Just go and buy a stack of keys, or go and farm a stack of keys, and then they'll empty them all in all of their space. Why wouldn't they? It's their space. They ratted it in the first place. They created the money. You know, the difficulty from an asymmetric warfare perspective is that you can't. You know, my group can't go and participate in that content. Realistically, it's just a death sentence. If we turn up with 10 guys, no matter how blinged or whatever we put them in, 10 guys at 0 on this thing is not gonna beat the 60, 80 guys, whatever, that gets brought in by the Horde fleet that sees the region-wide ping. So it's not really engageable for us. But I think this goes back to what you were saying earlier, Dak, about, you know, what is a block level non-deployment objective, you know, and that would be, in my eyes, something like these ESS keys, because you don't need to deploy to go and do it. You know, you don't need to deploy the alliance, but you can go and take your 120 Feroxes, and you can be rest assured, because you've picked the time and the place, which is what was good about POS warfare, right? Compared to Citadel warfare, is you picked the time and the place, and it was happening there and then, and they were going to get what they were going to get. You know, in terms of their numbers. And so you could go, okay, well, I think Horde will respond with 120 Feroxes-ish, you know? So if I go with 120 Feroxes as Goon Swarm, then I can empty that ESS. But you've got to make it worthwhile for them to do that. But then, again, you hit in this weird catch-22 with, well, why the hell won't Horde just call a CTA and just put 250 guys on every node and run 5 nodes at once?
Right.
I think the answer to that is something like an Entosis thing, where it needs to be over a longer time frame, because we can rage ping and get, you know, 250 people in fleet. It's a whole nother story to get 250 people to stay in fleet, you know, over a consistent time frame. You know, when we started having those like 5, 6, 7 CTAs per day, it started wearing on people hard.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like, I completely get, like, you've got the burnout issue there. The good news, I guess, for larger entities like Horde Goons, whatever, is that the burnout issue is significantly less of a thing on an individual scale. Because if I, as line member of Horde, turn up on day 1 and then don't turn up on day 2, I, as line member, am probably not individually missed, if that makes sense, because there's another 250 guys.
Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. When we were fighting against the Goons, there were quite a few fleets where I'm like, it's okay, I don't need to go to this one. After a year of constant warfare, you start the CTA ping, you know, alerts start to lose their luster.
Yeah, it's ping fatigue, isn't it? But that's completely something. But it's interesting. I mean, the thing that I thought was good right, about POS warfare. So this is going back in time a bit. And the thing that I find is not so good about Citadel warfare is that POS warfare, you made the initial timer when you wanted, right? Which you can now do with Citadels, right? But back in the day, you couldn't. But as in when they were first released, but now you can do that. You can make that first timer. That's great. The downside is there's then 2 timers which they either don't bother showing up for, or show up for with overwhelming force on the 3rd timer, as it were. To me, it's a bit tricky over 3 timers. I like 2 timers. I think 2 timers is good. It gives the aggressor more. Less ping fatigue, particularly in asymmetric warfare, because I might have 15, 20 guys, as I said earlier. If I've got 15, 20 guys, the odds are reasonably good I can get 15, 20 guys to log in twice within 48 hours and to go and do a thing like a CTA, whatever, within 24 hours. That's possible, feasible, and doable. And also the fact that you had to set the timer by sending someone to the ESS to yank the strong was pretty good as well. But not the ESS, the bloody POS. To yank the strong was pretty good as well. It required active gameplay from the part of the defender. The problem with Citadels is if I go and do something for the first timer, right? So I go and start that first timer, they might not choose to defend it because they can't get enough rapid response. Fine. That's normal. That's how it used to be, and everyone's kind of okay with that. The second timer, I might have a cunning plan, right? Because I might be going for an asymmetric warfare against a much larger entity, but I know their doctrines. I've done my research. I know what they're going to bring, right? They're going to default to Macarials and Triage. Yeah? And I look at it and go, yeah, but I can fucking smash this timer by being creative and flexing and running this doctrine and run this, and you run something that's able to counter that, right? And you put all that time and effort into generating that thing, that entity, that doctrine or whatever to defeat that. You've then, if you win, got to do it again. And they've seen your hand, they've seen your chips, they've seen your cards, they know what you're going to bring, they know what you've got, they know all this, that, and the other. And that's hard. That constant iteration is really hard.
I'm a firm proponent of just completely stripping a timer off all Citadels. Like, I think it just should only be armor and hull timers. There shouldn't even be shields. But I think that there should be more stuff to encourage small groups to stay in areas for small amounts of time. Like, I feel if there was like some sort of like resource gathering or something where you needed to spread out enough that you weren't just balling up under a super umbrella. You actually have to send groups out, and they have to maintain areas so that they stay in those areas long enough to become targets themselves of other groups.
I think there should be more ways to lower the ADM of an enemy space. I think there should be mechanics to bring ADM down and bring defensibility down. And I think the difficulty of killing a Citadel should actually depend a lot more heavily on ADM, and ADM itself should be diversified. And I also think there should be a PvP strat at ADM. So I just asked for like 25,000 things there, right? So anyone who develops games, or anyone that, if Convict is still listening, he's like face palming right now, like, oh, okay, yeah, you just go ahead and design the game there, Mr. Genius. But all I mean here, right, is just like Dak was saying, give an incentive for people to be in an area, and also give an incentive for the push and pull that we see that's great about Citadel fighting. I've said this before to like, especially like when I'm training new FCs or I'm talking to people who haven't played the game as long, like some of the best fights in EVE I've ever had were over a freaking Poco.
Yeah.
Poco's not so...
It's not because the Poco is worth anything.
Yeah, the Pocos... You can crap out Pocos all day long, and they're not worth anything, hardly. But what happens is someone's like, oh no, not in my turf, and it's this incidental thing, like, let's do it, let's scramble a fleet just to go fight a Poco, whatever.
But it's also a 2-timer job, right? So we're going back to 2 timers again, right?
Exactly.
So you do the first one, and it's a mild inconvenience, but you've gone and you've dealt with it quickly, and you've generated an offensive timer, right? Because you could just one cycle it with 3 dreads, right? So you one cycle the Poco with 3 dreads, you've generated it. The enemy, if they're on their toes and have a good have good infrastructure and a good defense fleet, there's 3 dreads siege on a Poco for 5 minutes. Off you go grab them, go make their life hell. But if not, tomorrow, or 24 to 48 hours later, you have you get to you can play your box of tricks, you can play your cards once, right? And in an asymmetric environment, that gives you an opportunity to pull something out of the bag against a vastly superior enemy, if that makes sense.
I feel a big thing that was lost when we went from the Poco era to the Citadel era was the ability to deny resources. Because I remember it used to be where, like, if you lost your NPC station, you were screwed. You were locked out. You couldn't get back into it. And, you know, a lot of these Poco fights over, you know, massive fights over Pocos that ultimately aren't worth that much, it was also really because of resource denial, you know, denying those groups those R64 moons. You know, I feel like that's something we're missing in this game that we need more of, is more ways to attack other players' resources rather than just gain more resources of ourselves. Like, we should be able to, like, go over into our enemy space and not just make them dock up, but also, you know, beat up their infrastructure. Like, I would love for there to be a module that you could fit as like a high slot that just eats moon goo. Like, it doesn't mine it. I just sit on one of their rocks, and maybe it has like 2 times speed or anything, and I just can chew through rocks and just eliminate a field of my enemies. You're not going to undock and fight me? Fine, I'm going to destroy all of your moon rocks so you don't get it if you're not going to undock and fight me right now.
So funny you should mention it. We used to put 5 or 6, I don't know anything about mining, but 5 or 6 mining spaceships that were apparently good mining spaceships, who knew, or into, you know, people's belts when they dock, like moon belts when they dock up for not fighting us. We'd chew their moon ore, and I don't know which one the expensive one is, but they chew all the expensive stuff because I have some people who know about that stuff and I don't. And then we jet can it and shoot the cans. Because
exactly, it's good. It's good. Like, undock and fight me, or you're not going to be able to make your risk. If all you want to do is crab, well, I'm not going to let you crab.
To your point, though, like if Athenors were right, because Athenors being part of a Citadel, if it was a little more interesting to engage in Citadel warfare, you go blast someone's Athenor, especially before the pull has happened, and that can be severely detrimental. So, like, I think there's some promise here for engaging in resource warfare. I think that's much more valuable than artificially creating a scarcity or trying to put pressure to break up certain income streams. Just give us a way, like, if there's anything that I hope CCP has learned from EVE, is that if you give EVE players a way to ruin things, they will do it. So I think this is an avenue.
People, isn't it? You know,
it sure is. Yes, it is.
We're a community of min maxers for sure, but it's I think that CCP have made great strides in terms of getting people actively out in space to earn their ISK and do stuff. You know, like the passive moon income days of R64s. And then R32s, etc., and the Empires were excellent because they required very little individual line member interaction, right? Which has a really interesting effect on corp entity ISK generation. So Waffles as a corp doesn't generate any ISK, right? And it never has really since R64s went away, because the way you have to make money off moons these days is by sending people to actively go and mine them, right? So if my guys are going and actively mining a moon, and they're putting their time and effort into it, they're getting that moon ore. You know, I'm not going to take it all away from them. Like, that's silly in my perspective. I know lots of entities do it. You know, they do, you know, corp or alliance money making fleets or whatever. But I as a PvP entity, I cannot sit and stand on that platform and go, oh, I like that. You know, so when R64s etc. went away, the corp lost all sorts of income, all income generation, because fundamentally the corp, we didn't live off ratting ISK, you know, because we encouraged everyone to go and put their ratting outs in as spies in everyone else's organizations, you know. So we didn't generate any ratting income that way.
You generated ratting income for all the corps you're spying.
Yeah, but that's fine because they were content, right? And the only corp income was from the moons that we held, which were on 2 timers and were generated some big spicy fights and probably never ever actually paid for themselves. But nowadays, you know, if I'm, even though those moons now, those fields generate much more risk in terms of ore value, whatever, than they used to generate as passive income generation sticks, I have to go and send like, you know, I'm going to send 5 guys with all their 15 mining alts to go and clear that field. At which point, as a corp, I can't go, oh yeah, I'm going to claim like 80% of that. No, not at all. I think we normally worked on somewhere between 5 and 10%. Someone will correct me, but that's someone who knew about that stuff organised it. But but you know, 5 or 10% of I'm going to spitball numbers here and look an idiot because I don't actually know anything about moons. But I have this on good authority that those fields make somewhere between like 4 and 12 bill, depending on how good the field is. Someone might be able to correct me there.
That's a reasonable range.
Yeah, somewhere between 4 and 12 bill, depending on how good the moon is, right? So if you send 5 guys to go and spend 3 hours of their life mining that moon, yeah, and then I collect 10% of 4 bill, you know, that's not funding any sort of corp activities. I can't even put down an Astra House for that to generate some content, you know. So it's.
I really do hope CCP does something to increase Corp and Alliance income streams, because they pretty much every stream Corps and Alliance have had has just been nerfed into the ground.
Yeah, a lot of corps I think have felt the pressure, like you're talking about, Sarah, to like put in some, you know, pretty tough restraints and like to try to squeeze more ISK out to stay solvent. What Fancy Pants has excelled at, I'll say, like even despite growth, is we've been very serious about, like, you know, first of all, we try to impart the idea to each member that, hey, we make ISK to PvP. We don't make ISK just to make ISK, you know, and that really helps, like, the whole mentality as a whole. And the Corp feels it too, because we don't feel like, you know, Corp doesn't need this massive, you know, 1 trill wallet to get things done. You know, so we try to look at ways, hey, what are ways that we're just wasting money as a corp, or, you know, what are things we should and shouldn't do as a corp? Where does it make sense to do a corp op, or where does it make sense to do things, or where can we collect other resources to do it, stuff like that. And then also, like, what can we do to enable the members? You know, I think Jack has done a great job with his integrity over the years of making sure that the Fancy Pants leadership style and the decisions we make financially are really geared towards, let's let those members keep that ISK, because that's how we're going to get those really crack PvP pilots, and we'll figure out the rest as it goes on. All that said, Dak is so right. Like, our income, it's tough. I really feel, I'll say, especially for the corps not, you know, like yours, Sarah, all the corps not in the big null blocks, it's even harder there. It is hard to stay solvent these days.
So I mean, I'll talk through our finances. We don't have any. It's very clear. So our entire corp functions off the generosity of old members. Fundamentally, like, that's pretty much it. You know, we have some old members who have money and who maybe don't play the game anymore, who essentially fund the corp. That is pretty much it. You know, because there is no other way of us generating any income.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why we don't see that many new groups anymore, is because if you don't have old established members, you probably don't have the funding to do stuff in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a really hard position to be in, right? Because I want to generate content, and I want to generate exciting, interesting content, right? Exciting, interesting content means I want to take gambles. Yeah? I want to take a 50-50. Now, I'm a huge believer in take a 50-50, but equally I don't have any ISK issues, right? Waffles does not offer SRP of any real description. If we win a fight, so this is how our SRP worked. If we win a dread brawl and we manage to loot the dreads, then we split the value of the loot, and that's it. That's our SRP across any dreads that died. That's how our policy works, right? And that's it. If we lose the dread brawl, tough shit, you're not getting anything. Fly better dread. And we've always been, as an entity, we always campaign on the platform of be self-sufficient, right? And that's how pretty much the entirety of LowSec always was. And I think the only entities left doing it are Snuff, right? And I saw people in chat, you know, commenting on Snuff and this and the other, but Snuff are this wonderful enemy to everyone, and they play this excellent villain, and the best bit about them is they play they play a bloody good game as well. You know, they're excellent at chess. High and Tower are both bloody good at Eve. You know, fundamentally they are very good at the whole game, and they're very well rounded. And they've got lots of years of practice. They've also added and been able to add large numbers to themselves. You know, they're the closest thing to what old PL was when PL was actually scary and didn't just fly jackdaws. And that's exciting. It's interesting gameplay. They're able to drop dreads and titans, etc., etc. And I don't pretend to know what their internal policies are regarding SRP, etc., etc. But they're able to do it because they're about the only entity in their region that are able to generate income, which is fine and fair enough. I'm not sitting here going, I should be able to compete with Snuff with my 15, 20 guys. I shouldn't. That's a stupid question. It's a stupid suggestion. But the pathway to being in a position to be able to compete with an entity like Snuff in low sec doesn't exist, as far as I can see it. There isn't one, and that's the bit that I don't. The bit I struggle with, and the bit that I think is still is unclear in the ongoing evolution of Eve, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Sorry to cut in real quick, but I do have to jump off. But just wanted to say it was a pleasure talking to you guys tonight.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you too.
Yeah, no, let's just say if I wasn't sold on joining Fancy Pants, I'm sold now.
Wasn't meant to be a commercial, but we do have a sweet commercial in our recruitment channel if anyone's a talking.
It's got some excellent jazz music, let me tell you.
Excellent jazz music.
Yeah, and thanks, Dak. Always good talking with you, sir. Yeah, to what you were saying, Sarah, I think people made the joke. I think one of the best Eve memes I ever saw, someone did a screenshot of, in game, when you go to your chat window and you hit the gear, there's a clear content. They took a screenshot of that and said snuffed out. And that was their caption. And I was like, that's funny. Yeah, that was a pretty good meme.
No, completely. And they did a bloody good job of it. And they
did a great job of it. For a while, they emptied out lowsec. And
for all intents and purposes, they won what they were trying to win. Right, and the thing that I look at and go, okay, that's great, but in an MMO, the environment should change, and they need to be pivoted. They need to have to pivot and adapt, right? Which is what Goons have done so well in the nullsec environment. Nullsec changed. Nullsec changed twice. In I say relatively recent history, but Saranen was actually a while ago. But anyway, it's
isn't it weird?
Isn't it weird? Yeah, time flies. But the Goons have had to pivot twice, and they're still standing. It shows that it can be done, but there was some great content on the road there, if that makes sense.
There was some great and some miserable content, and that's just the way it goes. But
depending on which side you're on, I'm sure.
How does CCP solve the problem? Because on the one hand, the fact that Snuffed was able to do what they did, and the fact that lots of people, Goons did this, Goons specialized in content denial, and I don't even mean that as a pejorative. It's just a fact. I have never been dropped in a T3D gang by Titans anywhere but in Goon space back in their glory days. So it's just the truth. Specialize in content denial. And there's a lot of content denial that's happened. Do you just take the reactive and say, well, that makes people mad, let's remove it? No, you don't, because that content denial is its own content creation.
Yeah.
So how do you do that push and pull that keeps it balanced? Because
you've got to change the win condition. That's the thing for me.
I don't envy CCP from a design perspective. I think the biggest thing, and I know a lot of people have said this, and by no means an original thought. My biggest complaint about CCP balancing isn't that they're trying to balance, and it isn't even the overall vector they're balancing it. I think the direction is actually correct. It's that they do these big ass changes, and then it's like a whole new server when you log in. Whereas you look at other games, if you steer to other games that have, granted, their own totally different challenges and context, but you look at games like Dota and things like that where you log in and there's been a patch. This hero's move speed was lowered by 0.27. What does that mean to me? Who knows? Maybe it means nothing to me because I'm not good enough to take advantage of that. A pro player looks at that and is like, excellent, I can win my games now. That created a win condition for me. I would love to see Eve have the more frequent, smaller cadence, because I think that it would do a lot for this game in terms of freshness and inventiveness. It would push more inventiveness upon this game, which I think it sorely needs.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that we're never going to sit here and armchair warrior our way to an answer. It's not going to happen. But,
for sure.
But it's it's an interesting conundrum that I think is good for people to think about. Right? Is that it's not a fundamental issue with the game. It's people do eventually find the solution, and they will, particularly in a community like Eve. You see it in other games in terms of people figuring out how to cheese a raid or whatever in stuff like WoW or whatnot. But in Eve, people strive to their own win condition, whatever that may be. Whether, for example, it be making losses not matter to them by economic wealth, which is what Goons pushed, right? Make losses not matter to their line members by making the entity so financially viable that they're able to offer such a comprehensive SRP package. Now, that is, and that's the win condition they sought and the win condition they achieved, and that's brilliant. They've done it. They did it, and then Eve changed, and then they had to react to that, and everyone else took that as an opportunity to go, oh, hang on a minute, we can go after that, and that's the dynamic, interesting environment that we want to see. I think basically.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
The fact that they've then gone and won twice, is is a testament to them and their successes, to be honest. But yeah, that's just.
I think when you talk about the scale of things like wars, like the major wars in Eve, I don't want to sound cheesy here, but there are no winners, only losers. Everybody loses something, and I also think that a lot of winning in this war came down to unfortunate intersection of circumstance. I think that's the kindest way I can say about it. But all the same, I completely agree with you. I think that Goons did a great job from an economic warfare perspective, even from their very, very early days when they were a rough and tumble, much smaller group and no longer the overwhelming dominant force that they are seen as, at least in more recent years. But I think that economic warfare was successfully leveraged, and that became the win condition for them. I think Horde's win condition in my mind, I don't want to speak for Gobbins or anyone in Horde leadership, but I think from my observer standpoint, the win condition has always been like, let's just get people into ships. Just get people into ships, have them go do stuff, and create success with whatever ships we can get, whatever people doing stuff we can get. And I think that works well too. And there's yet still other ways of doing this, space domination. Yeah, I mean, groups like Intrepid Crossing and Exodus held entire regions with like 12 real people for how long? There's so many interesting win conditions you can create in Eve. You talk about your asymmetric warfare approach that you hold with waffles and everything. I think it's one of the real powers of the game. I just want to see that magnified. I want to see more opportunities for that win condition creativeness and the inventiveness that has to go along with that to happen.
Absolutely, I think that's the thing, right? In a sandbox, you've got to create the space for people to put their own dreams on the wall, yeah, and then to be able to chase them, and that's the real thing we're all after here, right? Is to give groups of all scales, sizes, etc., the ability to paint a goal and put a big red box around it and go, right, we're going for that, and it be a viable set of circumstances. I think it's hilarious actually when you compare the weird synergies with like business management training. You look at it and go, setting expectations is one of the first things that anyone's ever going to teach you in management ever. Like, it's setting expectations and setting targets and management of people in that regard, and managing those win conditions for that individual, and that's how you take first steps to creating a high performing team, and you see, when you look back now at the war in inverted commas that finished a little while ago, and you look at the two different, very, very different approaches that the primary instigators took towards it, and this is where it's all interesting watching the Reddit smug and the fallout as being a third party of it all, is where Goons said floodplains, which is a hilarious thing at the time, right? But they very clearly defined that they didn't give a flying toss about anything apart from that very small box in Delph, right? Whereas certain vocal people from other alliances said that their only win condition was complete and utter annihilation of the other entity. And anyone who's ever fought a war in Eve knows you can't.
Yeah, that was
the only person that can kill.
Yeah.
The only people that can kill an entity is the entity itself. That is the only way you can get rid of it, right?
Yes.
So you literally can't get rid of an entity unless they elect to failskate, which is why, again, going back to another very strong entity, we've talked about Goons going back, and we've talked about Snuff already, but Snuff is a very strong entity. They are very clear with their win conditions, and they don't have things that you can go and they don't care, right? So when Goons went to go and shoot Snuff, right, Goons set the wrong win condition there. Yeah,
Definitely.
their win condition was go and knock over some Fortizars. Snuff went and and so what? I don't care. That's how you can't get rid of an entity if they don't have if they don't put themselves in a position to be got rid of, like Test managed to do in the recent war. They set a bad goal, a bad target that was something infeasible, and sure, it developed a fervor and a passion early on, but that very swiftly burns out when it's realized to be completely unattainable.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's one of the interesting facets of Eve is what do you have to do for a win condition, and what actually does victory look like? Because it is never, and it shouldn't be an effort to try and just like go saying, oh, we'll completely obliterate this group, or we're gonna gain victory through annihilation of all these structures, and that's gonna make them die or something. And so there's a great quote, if I can get a little philosophical here. There's a great quote by Solzhenitsyn that says, "You only have power over people as long as you don't take everything away from them. When you've robbed a man of everything, he's no longer in your power. He's free again." Like that's a defining experience for Eve itself, even. And it's a defining experience that you have to learn to understand some of the win conditions of these groups and some of these things that can happen. The more you try to take from someone, the more powerful and freedom they can unlock. And this is even down to an individual pilot level. You get upset over this loss, you pound the desk over, I can't believe, I lost. Those cheap bastards dropped my Hall Dread, but by actually putting caps on it instead of letting me blow up all their subcaps. Cough, cough, dunk. But, and all that stuff. But you can get frustrated by that, but then you can understand, okay, that's over. Now I have a freedom because that's been taken from me. That win condition has been taken. What is the next step? How do I create that freedom away from that entity or away from that challenge I have to something else?
Yeah, completely. I mean, it's something that I've tried to be very, very careful with because I kind of have seen it fail before. In terms of when we were recently on our little campaign in Syndicate, we went to Syndicate with the intention of whenever we deploy anywhere, because we've always been a deployment based group. Whenever we deploy anywhere, we've never intentionally put infrastructure down, because putting infrastructure down allows you to have that infrastructure taken away, and that's a big morale hit. Yeah, whereas you live out an NPC station and no one gives a damn. Right, mm-hmm. But so we intentionally made the decision to put some infrastructure down because we wanted it to be a conflict generator. So we went and we didn't care. Like, we didn't mine any of the moons. Like, some Russian guys ninja mined all our moons. Like, whatever. But like, we went and knocked over and then put down structures on moons because we wanted people to come and shoot them. Yeah, and eventually, some time passed, and some people did. Some people did come shoot us. And as I mentioned earlier, it was a vastly overwhelming force. And it didn't start that way. It started as a very assailable force, and we had some great, pretty symmetrical conflict. They had exactly the same number of dreads as we did, and we had the exact same number of subcaps, and it was fucking brilliant. It was the best content I've had in even years. It was perfect. And then clearly I know that they set a goal of eradicating us. So having evenly pitched battles didn't go towards their win condition, right? So and things going either which way didn't go towards their win condition. So what they ended up doing was bringing in loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of other people, and scaling this thing up, which then meant that it was a slam dunk. Basically, they can fucking waltz through. They have enough people that they're not going to have ping burnout or anything like that. They can just waltz through and gradually kill our structures. So I made it very clear to us internally that our goal was never to hold on to these structures, whatever. We put them down to get them shot because we wanted to fight. Yeah. So I made it very clear that our win condition is that we want to bleed them for more than everything that we've put down's worth. That was the condition, right?
Nice to
So,
say.
so we ended up bleeding them for, I think it was 375 bill in the end, and we lost, including all the ships lost and stuff in the conflict. I think we lost, and all the structures. I think we lost like 52. So we achieved our win condition, right? And that's great. It's still sore when you end up going, right, now we're going to leave this region because there's no content here for us anymore because it's been eviscerated. But we can hold our heads high, and when we achieved our win condition and we did what we set out to do in that instance. And it's stuff like that, and it's being able to set goals like that as a corp and an alliance, etc., etc. And the only reason we were able to do it in the first place is because we've got some old members and we've got lots of old assets. We haven't been able to generate any ISK for the corp to fund programs to put people in things and do stuff and whatever. It's you think about things that are technically corp assets, right? So you think about stuff that people would hand out. So if you're using like Capgun Dreads, you want to hand out like Vindicators and Balgorns with blingy webs so that you can hold stuff still, so you can detonate things, and you want to hand out like Bash Dreads and stuff like that, stuff that's literally just optimized for bashing things, because people aren't going to personally hold those. So you're going, okay, fine, right. I need to. At the time, it was all right. I need some Bash Dreads, and they're about 5 bill each. I need a Vindicator. That's a bill. I need 2 Balgorns. That's 2 bill each.
It's not easy nowadays. Eve went from holy crap, that fleet has 2 battleships in it to hand out Vindicator so fast, but and then that income went down so far. Hey, but I also want to say hello to my comrade, Mr. Tingla. He's one of our fantastic team leads, in fact, within Fancy Pants. I unfortunately have to go. It has been great talking to you, Karama. Thanks so much for inviting Dak and I. Sarah, great talking to you. Always good to keep up the contact. Congrats again on your big win. Great show. I will drop in again sometime for sure. But you're in good hands with Sarah, Mr. Tingla here, and the ever faithful Keepstar bot. Have a good one, guys. Great talking to you.
Cheers, man.
Thank you so much for showing up.
Cheers, Ish. Oh, he's gone already. That's typical. So, I don't know if you can tell. I'm one of our EU members. I run weird time zones because of work, but I'm a team lead who doesn't really have a team. So all of the other team leads have an objective, like CovOps, or we've got one who does most of our industry and things like that. And I'm the one who just does general content. And the reason I jumped in is there's quite a lot of similarities between what I do in the corp and what Waffles does as a corp. So almost think of me as like the small gangy kind of content generator PvP guy trying to focus in on that, which is weird in a big corp which is in a huge alliance. So like I think what I wanted to say was like in the war, like these huge wars where we have like some of our fleets were like 250 man fleets plus another one in Horde. And Fancy Pants is famous in Horde for filling the Logi, and literally we would have most of Fancy Pants in Logi in those wings, all drunk as all hell, just trying to keep things alive. But what we would do at the same time is we would do the little jobs. So I've got a video on my YouTube channel where I literally just have warping in a Saber over and over and over again onto a Keepstar that they're trying to jump supers out of into a super fight. And they just can't for 10 minutes. They're just not allowed to jump supers out because we just keep bashing it with little random fun things like that.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, man. That's exactly the sort of thing that that we used to do as well, and it's the sort of thing we've done when we've worked with larger entities. We've been the Logi wing. We've done the keep the undock wobbled. We've played that game. It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, and it's something that's critical, although not always seen on the big broad scale. But you've definitely still got the badge saying I was there, and that's the and that's the fun bit, isn't it? It's knowing that what you're doing is relevant and fun and interesting and important, and yeah.
I think there was so much in the first conversation. You guys were flowing so well, but the other thing you guys talked about was like revenue, and it was funny because I was thinking like corp revenue. How do I actually help corp revenue or anything like that? And I'm an old player. I've played for a while, and I have money, and I have like active trade alts. I quite enjoy listening to like classical music and sitting there and like just scroll wheeling the one-isk. Like I don't know. I have weird Eve habits. So what I do is I do the little tournaments in our corp. So we did one for the Alliance tournament where we made posters, and the guys like put results in. We put 4 bill on the line, and we got 3 beautiful posters. So I think I'm always thinking off the main line kind of doctrine kind of ideas.
Yeah, completely. It's so. I mean, I think what I was more going for was how does the corp generate ISK, right? So we can generate ISK for all of our members. Piece of bloody cake, easy peasy. You know, we've spent the best part of 10 years essentially running every incursion group under the sun. And doing that sort of thing, or being very, very tightly knit into these entities, and it's an absolute doddle to sort individuals' personal ISK out, and that's great, right? But it doesn't fund corp activities, corp infrastructure, and it's something that's a little bugbear of mine. But it doesn't hugely impact us because our members are our group of friends really are all, I don't know why I call them members, this group of mates, are all very, willing and giving and like easygoing, and they don't ask corp to get stuff and this, that, and the other. But it's still something I would never want to do. I'd never want to be in the position. If I was starting a corp again, if I was looking to spin up an entity like Waffles was, I'm not pretending we still are, but like Waffles was, I'd look at it and go, that's nigh on unassailable unless I have a very big credit card limit.
I often look at some of these low sec fights, and I'm in my head, I'm just like, surely somebody is putting real money on the line there, like, because I know low sec income streams. You've got like the core of it is like incursions, and then you've got the hubs, the pirate hubs that you can kill and get like the really big faction implants. They're like a super thing you can do.
I don't know. I've funded Eve for 14 years or something, nearly 14 years. How long has it been? Yeah, nearly 14 years entirely on my wallet.
Yeah.
So I I can't tell you. I've never been interested in pursuing personal income. I've tried most everything. I've tried lots of things. I ran level 5s for a bit. I null ratted in a super. I did high sec incursions, low sec incursions. I've done null sec incursions. I've done all sorts of things. Had a small moon empire. It's done all sorts of things.
I feel like a similar history, so it all gets a bit of a grind.
But it's never been what I enjoyed about Eve, so I've never bothered, basically. And I've been very fortunate that I don't tend to feed things I can't afford to lose. So going back to the old adage, so it seems fine, but but yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, how do you fund corp activities? Okay, I want to go and move and deploy there, right? I need to put down a chain of Astra houses or Raitarus or something. I had to drop a chain of those, right? That's 700 mil a pop.
So obviously, like, we live in drone space, which is basically just ratting income. Like that's where you expect a lot of our corp income to come from. We get nothing from that. It's horrendous. So we've started to get more now that they've got the changes around ESSs. Now the Horde is back home, and we can actually control systems a bit better and things like that. But we don't get an awful lot from that. We get stuff from taxes on moons a little bit. You get a little bit of stuff from like, maybe if you run a wormhole sig or something, you can just grab that. But like, it's difficult. It's really difficult, and that's like with quite a big amount of players and quite a lot of keen crabs. Like, I think we've got a lot of very aggressive crabbers, like, who are happy to come and join in with PvP, but most of the time they're going to be killing NPCs. And so what tends to happen with us is that we have corp doctrines that we subsidize and we get people into, but then we also have the richer members will just buy a roam. So like I quite often just buy like 50 condors, and we're like, we found a wormhole to delve, and we're gonna go and die to goons, and we're gonna get a big kill. Like that's the aim of the game.
Yeah, that's the target here. Go get a big kill. I mean, we do the same, right? So I mean, we had an excellent one I think it was in the new year. This year we had an particularly excellent roam where we thought, fuck it, let's fly ham caracals and make everyone think we're flying rapid light caracals.
I think
So-
I actually heard this or saw this.
We ended up killing an entire fleet of blobs. Yeah, it was quite good fun. I mean, that was after we killed a goon mining fleet and then a whole bunch of other stuff. It was the jackpot roam. We jumped through a gate. There was like 6 or 7 blops and a whole load of blops legions, and they all thought that we were rapid light caracals, and we were actually brick tanked ham caracals, and ruined their day.
50 DPS of a hammer.
It's a bit more than that, I think. I think it's about 500, but anyway, it was nuts, and we completely ripped them to pieces. But anyway, I don't know why they stood and fought. It was on a gate as well, and they bubbled themselves on top of us.
Yeah,
But anyway, it was a special moment. But yeah, it's it's been quite good fun. But yeah, no, I love that sort of thing. I love buy a roam, go do something. It's always the best way about it.
I think one of the things that's been talked about in the chat, actually, I was messaging in the chat and saying nonsense about, was citadels and the money you get from citadels in low sec and null sec, and it's not much. But if you're in a situation like we were with goons, where you completely sweep the floodplain and you do kill the structures, there was a point where there was so many structures that pretty much every individual corp in Horde was being assigned systems to just lock down and just chew through the structures, and you pretty much get everything from them. And for us, that was just monstrously huge. We got so much ISK from that for corp stuff. So that's interesting because I think that the structures don't drop much, but with the introduction of the key thing you get that you put inside them, wow, words have just lost me.
Yeah, no, I mean totally. We basically managed to fund the corp for like nearly 8 months, and feeding some dreads for nearly 8 months off of one abandoned citadel kill.
Nice.
So that was, but that wasn't intentional. It was an activity that we got invited to by some other friends and split the loot, and that basically covered that. But yeah, no, it's just an interesting dilemma. I mean, Waffles as an entity is mostly AFK. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be around that bush. But it's kind of a tricky tricky position, right? Because you look at it and go, okay, well, how could someone become or move a corp if we can't figure out how to do it, and we have like already existing assets, already existing infrastructure, already existing like high skill members? How can someone or how can a group go and build a pathway to being the sort of people we want to fight? Yeah. Does that follow? Like, how does that healthy ecosystem happen? And that's the question.
I think interestingly, with 1,000 members, we're trying to catch up to the point where you're at. Like, we're trying to catch up to the point where we can go, right, well, we'll put 10 dreads down, and then we'll back that up with an alt force, where we've got like 25-man fleet that can back that up with the subcaps. Like, we can't really do that consistently, and we don't really have the confidence to do that, nor do we have the kind of maybe the credit cards, or maybe I don't know how you get to that point where you're like, well, we're just going to go for it. I think once you start doing it, yeah, but like getting into that is tricky. Like we have obviously had cap fights, and we've had cap fights as a corp, just alone, not with the rest of Horde, and they've gone badly. You can look at our Z kill board. We like to kill capitals and hunt them, like Dak was saying about the old whaling fleets. We love that. We're really big on that at the moment, but to bait into stuff and to kind of play that chess game you were talking about earlier, we're not quite there. We're still at the kind of medium size of that, where we'll bring our 50-man Cerberus fleet and try and counter your kind of Lashak fleet or something.
50 Serbs terrifies me. Please keep them well away.
It's honestly awful. It's just not a nice thing to fight against.
No, it's I mean, how do you go and drop caps and stuff? And it's one, understand how to fly your caps. Two, make sure your flat caps are fit correctly. And three, know what you're going to end up fighting against. That's all research. And that's, I mean, we like crikey, we've pulled the trigger into the wrong thing before. You know, I think we blew up, or between 4 or 5 entities that all were like trying to drop on each other, as it were. We had a fight in 5-tac-T in Syndicate that was 300 bill or something. We were the most active place in EVE that week by a long way, because we all thought, fuck it, yeah, we've got about the right number of dreads here. all dropped dreads on each other, and it all became a right clusterfuck, which was great. But yeah, no, it's you've just got to know your enemy really, and know the capabilities of your ships. And at the end of the day, you can start with something really easy. Or I say that they're quite expensive at the moment, but I think, you know, starting the escalation pathway with an entity that's not going to massively outscale you is a good way of teeing it off. Like, if you look at it and go, okay, well, I know that entity can field maybe 8 dreads, yeah, and you go, okay, well, I'm going to take a fleet that relies on triage, right? So I'm going to put all my guys in battleships and triage. I'm going to drop triage, and the only way they're going to kill my fleet is if they drop a couple of dreads on my triage. And you know that they're going to drop 2-3 dreads on your triage. And okay, they've dropped 2-3 dreads on your triage. Right, what's the next play here? Drop more dreads to kill their dreads, and then drop more triage to keep your battleship fleet alive.
Yeah.
And then you play that game, that counter-escalation game. And it's really just about knowing what they're going to have, what they're not going to have, and kind of just knowing what you put on the table, I think, is the first step in terms of how much you're willing to lose. And then you can kind of craft around that. But I think go into it with the mindset of, you know, the worst that happens is you lose some spaceships, you know, and you go and make some more. And someone who knows about that will go and do that. You know, that's a good fun. I'm sure there's a team lead that knows about doing that. I have a couple of guys who know about doing that and figure that sort of thing.
I feel like I might be the team leader who's quite good at losing the spaceships. Like,
well, that's perfect. Go and do that then. You know, it was. Who was it? We went and we were very intentionally looking for someone to have a battleship, triage, and capital fight with when we left Horde, like instantaneously. And the first thing, because we knew that's what we enjoy, right? So dropping a good battleship fleet with triage support, because we don't have enough people to put enough people in Logi, if that makes sense. So you kind of have to use triage. You don't really get a choice. It's to me, triage is the peak of asymmetric warfare. Logistics, because you can put one guy in it and he can do the job of 10 guardians, and that's perfect for me. I think it's actually 7 guardians, but anyway, that works when you've got so few members. But we specifically went out looking for that, and so I specifically scoured Z-Kill for dread fights that involved 10 dreads on each side. Right, I went explicitly looking through Z-Kill for dread fights that used 10 dreads on each side, and I found Brotherhood of Spaces, I think it was, who were fighting someone, and they had 10 dreads, and then the other person had 10 dreads, and Brotherhood of Spaces won, and they were using a battleship fleet with triage, and I was like, perfect, this is exactly what I want, because this is exactly what I want to go and fight. So we moved 8 mids. We moved 8 mids into their territory just to get a cat fight with them, and we won in the end. Although there was a moment of sheer and mighty panic when Rix Javix jumped in with them. I think it was Rix. Was it Rix? I can't remember. I can't remember. I think it was Rix. It was. I can't remember who it was. It was someone relatively well known. Jumped in with them, and we went, oh shit, thinking it was another entity jumping in with them, but we'd already pulled the trigger with our dreads on that point. So they were coming in like it was happening. We were in, we were having it, and that was that was what it was going to be. And
I'm getting messages from Pants people now who are like, well, we had this fight and this fight.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing, right? So it's one of our favorite things to do is sit around the campfire and remember fights that we've had and stuff like that, and relive the glory days a little bit, because it's certainly not what we exist in currently. But
I think my favorite moment like that was before Pants. I was in a very small group who lived out of an NPC station in Nullsec, and we would like roam around 4 systems and get smacked. So there's these guys who lived either side of us who didn't like each other either, but if we went further than our 4 systems, they'd just chase us down. So we had a lot of station games and nonsense like that, and they would always drop caps on us. And it was a poker fight. I'm pretty sure they brought caps, and we brought caps onto a gate, and they walked to range on a gate. So we had like 1 cap down in a battleship fleet, and they had like 7 caps. They just massively outdone us. But what they didn't know is I'd been in contact with Bomber Spar like all day, and I think several of the American guys before me had been in contact with Bomber Spar. So all of a sudden, their like 7-8 caps just had like 50 bombers plus our battleship fleet, and then we just dropped all of the dreads we could, which was like 4 dreads, and managed to pull through and kill them. And that was like a huge moment for us. It was just like we kind of beat the bullies up a little bit.
Oh, I love getting dropped on by Bombers Bar and stuff. It's a lot of good fun. I had I went to PC9 to go and like mess around on Eve Uni's Undock in I think it was a Varga, just for some fun. Back before the Marauder buff, actually. So it was because I just wanted to fly something that wasn't a dread, but still was essentially a dread. And it's it's more assailable than something other, so it felt like the right thing to do. So I went with the Varga to Eve Uni's Undock and started plinking away at whatever the hell they undocked. And they were plinking back, and it was fun. And then and then I got then Bomber's Bar showed up and started shooting me, but fortunately didn't bring any tackle. So I MJD'd this Varga off. And
you could MJD out of siege, so like you could press it and the siege would end and just boom, you go.
No, it was after. It was relatively recently. It was just before the buff. So you still have to wait for it to end before you can MJD. But it was it was really good fun, and then got to plink away at some bombers that were chasing me and this and the other as I'm MJDing around this grid, going ah. And then similar thing happened when I'm being a dick on Eve Uni's Undock and just dicking around really, and then the best thing in the world just arrived on grid. I clearly wasn't paying enough attention because it just appeared in front of my eyes, and I'm pretty sure they didn't Titan bridge. Was one of my favorite fleet comps in EVE Online. That was probably the first fleet comp one of the first fleet comps I ever flew in like a proper group in EVE. Was a Rupture fleet with CO2, and it was Down Under Syndrome. Down Under Syndrome showed up with like 22, I think it was, artillery ruptures. And and started volleying my Varga's shields, and that was a hell of a moment as I'm frantically trying to kill the bait praxis, which is what got me to aggress just on the undock of the thing, and then proceed to start fragging ruptures. That was spicy. I very 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 nearly died. It was I only survived because somehow I managed to newt out their interceptor. And got an MJD off and got off to a safe, but that was really really good fun, like proper touching cloth moments.
Just those fights where those 2 aspects, the Praxis and the Interceptor, they could have easily just completely like smashed you with loads of.
It was a full new hull tank Praxis with like 198 KEHP that was newting the ever loving daylights out of me. In my Varga as this, and obviously scramming me and webbing me, whilst this this blooming Down Under Syndrome Rupture fleet, which I just love to see because they'd clearly gone, we want to fly a fleet and we want to have a roam and we want it to be engageable. Yeah, which is exactly what that fleet said, and I engaged and it was fun, And that's the sort of thing that I miss, and I've whittled on about it enough already. I miss undocking in thoraxes or mowers or maulers or ruptures or whatever.
There's still a window there. Like we were doing it, and you can get fights off crabbers when you go and steal their ESSs in those kind of small fleets. So we were doing it with like 10-man thorax fleets going around. When the war was on, we couldn't go anywhere really, so we just had to find wormholes out of Delve to go and steal ESSs to then come back to Delve. But you get little fights every so often. But I do agree, it's a lot less common. I remember very clearly when I first started playing, living adjacent to Losec, and we would pretty much every night go out in ruptures, and pretty much every night somebody would PM us. They would have seen us in a frigate, and they'd be like, "Oh, just wait around. We're going to bring like 15 caracals to fight your ruptures. Like it's going to be great."
Yep. I'm not a huge fan of like the prearranged stuff, but it was a little bit. I know exactly what you mean. It was a little bit like someone would go, "I have scouted you. I'm coming." And it'd be like, "Oh, brilliant! I know what I'm doing." So it'd be like you used to be able to undock with a fleet of maulers and augurs and like just we used to live in Kanaka, right? So you'd undock from Kanaka and you'd pick a direction to go in. You know, I'm going to go to Ostengel, or I'm going to go to Tama, or I'm going to go to Poitot. You know. Which kind of on the way from on the route end of Ostengel, but you know what I mean. Like you'd pick a destination, you'd pick one of the named systems, and you just go there. And on the way, you would lo and behold encounter someone with something eminently engageable.
Yeah.
It's great, you know. And I think the other thing was when you went to Nullsec, you used to be able to do like station services. Like, name a more iconic and frustrating way of getting someone to undock and get you to fuck off than ruining their market service or ruining their clone service or whatever.
Which was accessible, like
super accessible, and it was great because you know the only thing I don't like about ESS is it doesn't impact the people who live there, really. Yeah, because from there,
kind of.
well, but it also doesn't really because you know they've not accounted for it in their risk per hour calculation.
Yeah, and
so they've just gone, okay, I'll dock up whatever.
The loss to a crabber is nothing. Like, so if I Varga rat for an hour, there'll be like 100 mil in that ESS. It's probably mine, and I'm just not going to risk losing a 200 mil Gila to go and fight you in there. You know what I mean? Like if I
it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Where do you Varga rat, by the way? But no, it's
you'd have to have an alt in like the core membership of Fancy Pants to catch me. I'm super spooky. I'm like, nope, I'm docking up. It's
but
also, in Dronelands we get the carrier spawns. Sorry, this is just an aside. And yeah, if you polarize a Varga, you can be in trouble in those sites. I'll tell you now. You can look on my kill board for Varga kills, and I've done some stupid things with Vargas, man.
I'm sure. It's they're good fun ships though. They're really good fun ships. But yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? You've just gotta get out there and get out and even and have fun. You know, with as you and I sitting here complaining that there isn't the rupture fleets and the mowers and etc. out and about, and maybe it's our fault for not being out in them. But and you know it is partially our fault for not being out in them right now at this very moment, and instead being sat here on Twitch annoying 50 odd people's perfectly good evening. But it's if I was ever going to put one big plea out to people, it's to go and undock in something engageable. You know, that's my one big plea, and just hope that to God that there's other people that also have the same thought. You know, go and be a content enabler. Like, there's one thing being a content creator, but there's another thing being a content enabler. For me, a content creator is an FC, whatever, and they're the sort of person that's going to go out there and blow stuff up and whatever, and that's cool. But a content enabler is someone that looks at it from both sides of the coin. You've got to look at about the people that are going to shoot you back as well as the people that you're going to shoot. And go and support that sort of thing. And that's what I would implore people do. Go and support creating content that's engageable from both sides of the coin. And from a fucking shitty game mechanic perspective, the only thing I'd say of CCP is, please, for the love of God, allow me to push fucking standings through ESI. My God. Those are the two things I would I have on my agenda before I go to bed and try and solve my sleep schedule.
I love how the conversation has kind of devolved into storytelling and like kind of moaning about like how it wasn't in the day, and then right at the end you're like, but this one mechanic that's not related to that at all, can we just fix that?
Yeah, just a little QL thing. Just yes, that. No, it's no. I don't know. I like it. I like it when conversations go kind of down storytelling and anecdotes, and I think it's something that's unique about EVE, given its history, and it's something that EVE has that other games, you know, just simply will never compete with. because of its longevity, because of the people element in how the game operates, and because of the number of egos and people and kind of just this history, this heritage that the game has, and the different entities. The fact that I'm able to sit here and wax lyrical about things that my corporation did, 8, 6, 9, 10, whatever years ago, is great. But I also want I really want more entities in Eve. I am 100% behind. I want more entities to go out and do, and to be better than me and us and what we are, and to go and create, go and both be the predator and the prey on the food chain at some point. Because everyone is always a bigger fish, and that's what creates a healthy game.
Yeah, for sure. We actually support a high sec entity that's completely unconnected to Horde. They just live near us, and we kind of try and help them as much as we can so that they can make content. They're like, oh, we want to go on PvP fleets, but we don't really know what to do. And it's literally that, like, go and take a caracal, fit a little bit like this, and go and find some people to fight. Someone will fight you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's just, I think unfortunately there is the little side bit of, oh, and don't go here, which I think is upsetting in 2021, but I think wasn't necessarily there in days of yore.
Yeah.
But is there now?
Is nearly unassailable for small gangs at the moment. For new bro small gangs, obviously.
Oh, it's fucking annoying. I went to Tama yesterday trying to get fucking ruined, and they wouldn't bloody undock and shoot me. It was very annoying. We went there in what did I go in? I was in a Brutix Navy. I had a friend in a Gnosis, a friend in a Retribution, another friend in a Slicer. And I'm going, that's quite an engageable gang, and that Brutix Navy issue was definitely worth killing. And I'm shit at flying it, so it was very killable. and yet, 2 Armageddons sat tethered and all this jazz and all these things all around the place just sat there and watched me.
It's storytelling again, but we had a really weird fight on a gate, which was the exact opposite. We bought in like a ridiculous Halloween room where we all tried to bring spooky ships, so something like Phantasm, and we had 20 guys, and we came up against a gate camp that just waited for us. Like, it was just like 3 battleships, and they just all sat on the gate and just like brawled us for like no reason. They shouldn't have done it, and it was great. So yeah, you get both sides, and I think you get a lot more of the just staring across the void at each other and going, please try and kill me.
Yeah, just fuck it. Just go and die. It's much more fun. Honestly, go. Someone will die. Go and shoot your guns, and someone will die, and everyone will have more fun. There you go. That's the answer. That is the answer. And that's I need to go to bed, right? Because it's 2:05. My entire corp are going, go to fucking bed. They're all American, you see, these days. So it's like they're all like, go to fucking bed. Oh, I'm at work at 5. Oh god.
Yeah, it's definitely, we've definitely had a long show. There were a couple times where I wanted to interject in, but you guys were having such a good conversation. I was like, hey, you know what? I'll just let them finish.
Sorry.
It's fine. It makes my job as a show host so easy.
I just switch it on a bit.
We both live in American corps, so we've probably not heard an English voice for a little while.
Yeah, very much so.
But yeah, one thing I will say though, you talked about Fancy Pants and the great fancy and like the culture. When my corp Concordia had actually folded, I felt really lucky to end up in Blackwater, USA, and just getting to hang out with those guys and hanging them out of Vegas. Like, it's been really cool. Yeah, no, they're a bunch of good guys.
Yeah, I think I can safely say that's the same from Fancy Pants Batchy. This is like proper like bros, but yeah, the kind of sister corps almost in Fancy Pants, the kind of similar sized corps are all great. Like in Fancy Pants, in Horde, like there's a few corps that are kind of doing our own thing as well as helping with the main alliance, and you can't ask for like nicer people. Like, they just come and mess around, and they have their own unique. I think you can agree that like Blackwater have their own unique culture compared to Fancy Pants, but it kind of works.
Oh yeah, like during my time when I was in, just for some clarity, I'm no longer in Blackwater now, but when I was in it, like, the culture was very much of, hey, you know, we're all in this together. Well, not even really we're all in this together. More of just like, hey, we're all friends and we're all having a fun time. Like, when we were in Vegas, we had like 20, 25 people in Vegas. Like when we went to the Horde barbecue, the joke was, nah, this is the Boosa barbecue. But yeah.
It's Booster obviously been around a very long time, and they've always seemed good guys whenever I've interfaced with them. It's yeah, and before I vanish off into hopefully my bed very shortly, yeah, Waffles are not recruiting. We're not active at the moment. Fundamentally, we aren't doing anything particularly interesting in Eve, and other than doing AT stuff, and we'll reassess that at the end of AT, I think.
But Sarah, what if I'm an ex Waffles member who just happened to lose a certain a certain Black Ops that wasn't fit properly?
Well, at which point you're probably allowed back in. Yeah, we can put. I did say I have put on our recruitment thing that close your recruitment unless you used to live here, then you can come back. So
Jack mentioned it already, but there's obviously an amazing recruitment video on the Fancy Pants Discord that you can check out. And Horde itself, if you're a new player and you're just watching this, which I doubt out of us there's many, because Twitch seems to not attract new players very well. I'm running a new player stream myself. Horde's a great place to just chill out and figure things out before you actually decide what you want to do, or stick around if you get unlucky like me.
right, thanks very much for having me, chaps. I'm gonna go to bed.
Nope. That about wraps up our show. I want to thank our guests for coming on. New and post streams, content throughout the week, including Trash Talk Tuesday on Tuesday, Lasers and Lace on Thursday, and now Slander something Saturday. I have no idea what it's called. But yeah, you should check it out, and we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to bubble wrap your Keepstars, and we'll see you guys next time.